Hi, welcome. We're gonna play a game called Radical Dreamer. So we're gonna ixnay on the Uzik May. Did I set up this to appear on the screen? We'll know in a second. Yeah. Carter Girl, welcome. We're playing. I don't know what this game is going to be like, but it's Radical Dreamers. It all began with a notebook my mother handed me. She told me she found it while cleaning out the closet. That is a notebook. This old notebook, covered with mold, was a diary that belonged to my grandfather, who passed away years ago. It contained his distant memories. I wonder if you still remember how we first met and our many adventures. It all seemed like a dream. We ran like the wind during those warm summer days long ago. You were a piece of a star that fell from the sky. Do I press the button? No, I don't press the button. I can still relive the memories of those days long past. Just by closing my eyes like so, and whispering your name into the desolate night. Kid. I know her. She was in the Chrono Cross video game. Oh. Kid. Hey, kid. Are you ready, kid? I know you're anxious, but stay on your toes. Yeah, likewise, mate. You mess up and I'm leaving you behind. Got that, Serge? Come on, McGill, let's go. That bastard Link's gonna get what he deserves. Say your prayers. Not that it'll do you any good. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, that's a different. Radical Dreamers. Le Trésor Interdit. Change selection with the movement things. Confirm cancel menu. Auto text. Menu sound settings. And escape menu. We'll go with Surge. Look at these skinny letters. The old lady's tip-off was rotten money. The counterspell on the barrier around the outer walls could have done a real number on us. Kid's plain, unadorned braid flicked back and forth across her shoulders as she walked. We picked our way through the elaborate lattice of the manor's magic shields, moving in closer and closer to Lord Lynx's stronghold. There were 3 of us, Kid, McGill, and me. I don't know McGill. I'm a little bit nervous that something bad is going to happen to McGill during this. We'll find out, I guess. I guess it must have been 3 years since I first met Kid. Back then, I was just a wandering musician, traveling wherever my feet would take me, and wherever a few tunes would pay for a warm bed. I was in the Outlands, in a town called Regiora, where we first ran across one another, and since then she dragged me along on a whole bunch of adventures, and misadventures too. Ah, Kid. She was a thief. And not just any thief, just a few months shy of 17, and already renowned as one of the realm's greatest. What's more, she was achingly beautiful, stylish, a joy to be around, and a dab hand at campsite cooking, or so she liked to claim. The truth was a little different. Those bandits with hearts of gold you've heard about in stories, the ones who steal from the rich to give to the poor, yeah, that wasn't Kid's style. She was short-tempered, prone to lying, bossy, and obsessed with money, and rarely did she care to listen to a single word anyone said to her. But she wasn't all bad. Probably. Maybe. Sometimes. She had her moments anyway. I glanced over my shoulder to see a shadow hovering behind us, blending into the darkness like smoke. McGill. Also known as McGill the Shade. He was Kid's partner, but even after 3 years, I still knew hardly anything about him. All I knew was that he was about 30 years old and not much of a talker, but he was one heck of a mage. I heard that he and Kid had started working together way before I met her. He always covered the top half of his face with a mask, and I'd never seen what he looked like underneath. He was a man so mysterious that it sometimes seemed like he was an interloper from another world. Hi, Magus. Hi, Magus. Magus? It wasn't like Kid was exactly big on details about her past, but McGill? He might as well have not had one. And Kid didn't seem to know much about her partner in crime either. What kind of man he was, what kind of life he'd lived before, nothing. You might ask how exactly I wound up being a part of this merry band. Well, it's complicated. I guess you could say that life doesn't always turn out the way you think it will. Kid, who was heading up our little raiding party, suddenly stopped dead. Look lively, boys. We've got company. We glanced around warily as cold, cruel eyes emerged from the darkness. I heard a low growl. Dark shadows prowled through the night, surrounding us. A pack of wildcats. There must have been about 10 of them. A thrill of fear ran down my spine. Flustered, I pulled my knife from my belt. Kid calmly shifted into a fighting stance. Watch yourselves. I don't reckon these buggers have been treated for rabies. The wildcats snarled and growled as they slowly closed in on us, drawing the noose tighter and tighter. Their eyes glinted in the darkness like fireflies, and strings of eager spittle dripped wetly to the ground. Then one of them sent an almighty roar soaring to the moon, and the hunt was on. What was I going to do? I attacked. Oh! Think fast. Kid dived into the thick of the pack of wildcats and gave the largest of their number an almighty kick in the chops. The startled beast gave a yelp as it was sent flying. I turned to my right to see that a nearby wildcat was charging toward me, its head lowered menacingly. Panicked, I tried to make a last-second dodge, but I wasn't quite fast enough. Its claws scraped against my side as it rushed past me. I winced in pain for a moment, then I turned to face my foe and readied myself. I struck it wildly. With my knife. The beast tried to leap clear, but I was already too close. I felt my blade make contact and was rewarded with a screech of pain. The wildcat jumped away, this time managing to put some space between us. It looked like I hadn't cut it very deeply. I stood my ground, changing my grip on the knife and waiting for another chance to attack. Sedge, behind you! Panicked by Kid's warning, I whirled wildly around and came face to face with a pair of eyes blazing like hellfire. I tried to use magic. Wildcat was coming right at me. I twisted my body to avoid the attack, acting on sheer reflex. In desperation, I tried to recite a spell I only vaguely remembered, and failed to conjure up a single spark of magic. Yeah, this is a visual novel. Got a lot of text in here. The wildcat hurled its massive body at me, twisting my shoulder awkwardly. Ah! I was sent flying. My body rolled as it crashed to the ground. It would only be a moment before the wildcat struck again. I tried to stagger back to my feet, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. I heard a low growl coming from right behind my head. Every hair on my body stood on end. I shut my eyes and prepared for the worst. But nothing came. Instead, I felt a blazing heat from overhead and smelt the acrid stink of burning flesh. I opened my eyes to see the smoldering remains of a wildcat, and standing over it, McGill. He gave me a silent nod before swiftly dispatching another foe with a blast of flames. I staggered to my feet, shaking my head in a vain effort to dispel my dizziness. I was breathing heavily. The handle of my knife was slick with sweat, and I tightened my grip. With a kick like a bolt of lightning, Kid landed a clean hit on the flank of a nearby wildcat. It staggered before losing its footing, letting out a pathetic cry, but Kid had already moved in to finish it off. And then a roar of fire. A burning smell filled my nostrils, and next to me, a shrill screech pierced the air. Raven, welcome on in. McGill's fire spell engulfed the head of the nearby wildcat. It fled, darting off into the darkness like an arrow. I scanned the area. Only moments ago we had been surrounded, but now there wasn't a single wildcat left. Kid and McGill had either sent the rest off with their tails between their legs, or put paid to them once and for all? I'm not familiar with that turn of phrase. Put paid to them once and for all. Put pain to them? I don't know. We're going to keep going. Ha! You're dreaming if you think a pack of flea-bitten moggies is going to stop us, Lynx. Kid crossed her arms and flashed a triumphant grin. Meanwhile, I was panting heavily, and it felt like my legs were about to give out from under me. I collapsed to my knees, overwhelmed by what I'd just been through. Whew. I'd taken a few hits, but I was fine otherwise. A couple of scars to talk about later, maybe, but nothing that would stop me carrying on. British term. Okay. I mean, Kid is very British, so that does check out. Thank you for the information. Are you hurt? Oh, are you hurt? McGill looked down at me, his face expressionless as ever. No worries, Mag. He'll be all right, said Kid, barging in to get a better look at me. I may be a whinging sook, but it'll take more than a few scratches to kill this one. She was nothing if not sympathetic. But she was right. This was no time to be bemoaning my lot. We hadn't even reached the manor yet. I dabbed at my wounds with a tincture-soaked cloth and wrapped them in bandages, then looked up at the other two. I'm done. This video game has been fun, but 15 minutes is my limit. We're just getting started. I grinned back, putting a brave face on things. That's all I like to hear, Kid cheerily announced from the close quarters. But then her eyes turned cold, like the cool glow of the moon in the night sky. It's gonna be a long night. I nodded, trying my hardest not to utterly lose myself in her pale blue eyes. Alright, let's get the show back on the road. She turned away and marched off deeper into the trees, without looking behind to see if me and McGill were following her. Let's play an audiobook. McGill, of course, was already right behind her, his unhurried gait making it seem as though nothing much had happened at all. I jumped back up to my feet to chase after them. I'd be in for even more trouble than I'd bargained for if I got separated for them. The dark forest inside the manor's perimeter seemed to go on forever, a labyrinth of trees and boulders. The manor itself loomed in the distance, glowering over the vast grounds. And hidden within was a veritable mountain of treasure, just waiting for us. Lord Lynx was the noble who ruled the remote territory of Regiora. Regiora? He was also Kid's mortal enemy. We were there that night to steal a certain jewel that he kept locked away in his most closely guarded vault, the Frozen Flame. The Frozen Flame was veiled in mystery. It was said to be imbued with an uncanny energy and possessed of a beauty and clarity that made it a priceless treasure. Countless thieves had tried to steal it, and not one of them had come close to succeeding. Nor had any of them escaped the manor alive. And now it was our turn to try and sneak into this place of death. Led by a girl who had the ambition to make the impossible possible, a hunger for vengeance that drove her onward, and a desire for riches that could never be satisfied. As we pressed on through the tree-filled darkness, the shadows gave way at last, revealing the true extent of the vast mansion. Oh, there's my menu. I'm going to save the game. Why not? What could go wrong with a place of death? It seems like it's going to be a great time. Heh. Finally. Say your prayers, Lynx, 'cause we're coming for you. Keeping to the overgrowth and the shadows of the trees, we made our way around the manor walls in search of a means of entry. Drackley, welcome. Yar to you as well. Eventually, we came to a terrace overlooking the garden. There was no sign of any guards nearby. The only thing surrounding the manor was an uncanny stillness. This will lead us straight into the west wing. Just as well, we don't have any business in the rest of the manor tonight. Oh, sorry, that was Magil. This will lead us straight into the west wing, etc., said Magil, gazing up at the dark building towering over us in the night. Alright then, what are we waiting for? With that, Kid made to vault over the railing of the terrace. Stop! Magil hissed, sharply. Remember what we're here for. Our main target is the vault and the frozen flame within it. We focus on this above all else. Your vengeance is of secondary concern. Agreed? Glancing over her shoulder, Kid replied with a reluctant, Yeah, don't get your knickers in a twist. But if we happen to run into him, I'm gonna knock that Drongo's block off and neither you or anybody else is gonna stop me. Ha 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 ha! I guess Kid was going to get her way whether we liked it or not. Let's go, boys. The night is young. She cleared the railing with a sprightly hop and vanished inside the manor. Oh no, she vanished! I glanced toward Magil and nodded in silence. We followed Kid's lead and were soon inside Lord Lynx's lair. Some little alliteration. The darkness swallowed us whole. Oh no! Not again. A corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It seemed equally dark and chilly in both. Let's go to the left. We pressed on through the darkness, down corridors that turned and twisted snake-like this way and that. Everything around us was still and silent, and it felt strangely like we were being watched. It was as if countless eyes were staring silently from the shadows, looking on with curiosity and pity. We continued, creeping cautiously down the corridors. Kid moved proudly and stealthily like a cat stalking its prey, while in the shadows, Magil followed, gliding swiftly and silently like a sinister breeze. We pressed on into the embrace of the Weaver of Fate. It's going a little quick there. We took the corridor leading from the left-hand side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. The path to the right led down the stairs. The path to the left was a dark side passage, and the main corridor continued straight onward. Let's go downstairs. Slowly we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into the blackness as we went. At the bottom, the path split. The way to the left continued onto an atrium that resembled a plaza, while the path to the right was a winding passageway that trailed off into the darkness. Let's explore the darkness! We went down the stairs, then took the passage to our right. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the right-hand side. Something smelled fresh and pleasant. Flowers? Was it coming from inside? Let's go. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. The knickknacks and curios dotted around the place seemed to be well loved. The stately desk and the cozy-looking bed nearby, meanwhile, suggested the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Though the room was richly furnished, somehow it still felt awfully lonely. Kid took a quick look around before commenting, "It's Lynx's girl's room." A half-written letter on the desk, and a teacup, still warm, suggested that the lady of the manor was still nearby. But it didn't seem that anyone was here now. We decided to search the room. Some charming flowers, a discarded cotton handkerchief, a small bottle of perfume. Nothing that meant much to me, nor anything that seemed particularly valuable. Kid seemed to have the same impression, and scanned the room, clearly not expecting to find anything. The only item of note was a small antique box, which bore a crest resembling a viper. I decided where to look next. What could go wrong with picking up the little box? I gently opened the lid and was greeted by a soothing melody. Music box? There was something about that song. I know this tune. Kid was standing next to me, and I could see something had changed in her expression. You do, huh, Kid? Someone used to sing it to me a long time ago. She turned her gaze downward and went silent. Kid? Startled, she turned to me. Her eyelashes glistened as if wet with dew, or maybe tears. I would think tears would be the more likely one, but who am I to say? She walked to the door, not saying a word. Hey, Kid, wait up. We left the room. Was she crying? Was Kid crying? Maybe I was just seeing things. Leading the group as usual, Kid suddenly stopped. What's that? She tapped her finger at something in the darkness. Straining my eyes, I could see a pale white bundle of something shaking in the shadows. Huh, that's strange. I moved in front of Kid to try to get a better look. And then suddenly, the strange presence started crawling across the floor towards us at an unbelievable speed. I didn't have time to brace myself. The white figure reached my foot and then reared up to its full height. It was a skeleton! The skeleton and I stood face to face, its empty eye socket staring straight at me, or seeming to at least. What was I gonna do? Tackle! Yeah! There was a crunching sound and a clattering of bones as the skeleton was knocked back by the blow. Its body split clean in two at the waist. Better luck next time, muttered Kid dryly. As if in response, the skeleton's upper body picked itself up from the ground, turning its skull toward me. Balancing its body with its left hand, it then pulled the skull from its head with its right hand. What's it doing now? Before I could get the words out, it had heaved its skull at me. What was I gonna do? Catch it. I caught it in both hands. And spike it. I slammed the skull into the ground. It smashed to pieces with a satisfying crunch. And as soon as it had, the skeleton's torso collapsed into a lifeless heap. Won't be troubling us anymore. Time to move on. That's using your head. I used your head, skeleton. I was doing great. It felt like nothing could stop me. Maybe ain't such a drongo after all. Just goes to show. Any old weirdo can make something of themselves if they put their mind to it. Kid's eyes glinted with mischief. The passage outside the room continued to our left and right. The path to the right is going to go back towards not back towards where we came from. So we're going to go right. We went down the dark passageway, eventually finding ourselves at a sturdy-looking, immaculately polished door. Kid sniffed the air. Just as I thought. Something stinks here. I reckon we found the beast's lair, lads. In the darkness, Kid's lip twisted into a grin that turned my blood cold. This is probably a bad idea, but we went inside. Kid opened the door and slipped inside. It was Lynx's room. But he didn't seem to be around. Hey, the bugger's gone and scarpered because he heard I was coming. There was something deeply unpleasant about the room. There wasn't anything unusual about the furniture and fittings, not how they looked or how they were made, but taken as a whole, it all felt discordant. Was this a reflection of Lynx? A seemingly ordinary facade that hid a disturbing truth only some could see? Let's see what we could find. The desk drawers, the paintings on the wall, the vase on top of the side table. We left no stone unturned. There didn't seem to be anything suspicious. There's no such thing as mysterious, as Strongbad would say. But as I scanned the room, something unusual caught my eye. There was a pedestal in one corner with a significant-looking scarlet cloth drawn over it. I slowly raised my hand toward it. Be careful what you touch in here, warned Majil. I pulled my hand back timidly. But then the cloth flipped back with a flutter without me having laid a finger on it. Did that thing just move by itself? Exclaimed Kid, her eyes wide open with surprise. Gripped by curiosity, we moved in to see what it had been hiding. It was a large antique mirror of an elaborately decorated style I had seen before. It wasn't the kind of thing that would normally seem out of place in an old manor like this, and yet... Wait, something ain't right, said Kid. Meanwhile, I was captivated by the gaze of the statue of Venus in the mirror. So Venus exists in this reality. Huh. There's a lot to process with that news. Suddenly, the eyes of the statue shone with light. What is your desire? It spoke with a voice that was crystal clear, yet smoky and husky. The mirror, it's speaking, I stammered. Ah, a whispering mirror, muttered Majil, as if he'd seen them 1,000 times before. Says, whispering mirror. Womp womp. What's one of those? Kid gave Majil a quizzical glance. A magical mirror in which a spirit dwells. The spirit can freely move between its own and other mirrors, and will share its wisdom with those who ask. Perhaps we should ask it something. I decided to ask it about something that had been on my... Ooh. What's up with Kid? I want to know about Kid's past. No, if you want to leave this place alive, you bloody don't. Kid's face turned red with anger. Your wish is my command, responded the mirror, ignoring Kid, who had grabbed me by the collar and was complaining vociferously. The image of the mirror rippled, and the reflection of the statue shook. Reflection. And then the mirror's surface grew dark. The blackness gave way to a scene in Regiora. Shadowy figures appeared one by one. There was a young woman surrounded by several children. They were all dirty, their clothes ragged and worn, but they all laughed as they played together. And then the scene was drowned in flames, and a troop of armed men appeared. The men dragged the woman away, and the children vanished one by one into the inferno. Uh-oh! The focus shifted to one of the children, a girl. She was standing with her back to the flames, her tears leaving tracks through the soot on her face as she howled at the night sky. That's true, Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar are all canonically in this game. And the Massimian. The girl's right eye was narrow like a cat's. Stop it! Kid screamed. There is the Venus bow, that's true. The image in the mirror grew faint. Kid stared at the ground, her hands balled into tight fists. The room was dominated by silence. Worried about her, I broke the silence. Kid, I'm sorry, I'm leaving. She spun on her heel and made for the door. Wait, I cried and sheepishly darted after her. Meh! The corridor stretched out beyond the door. We retraced our steps. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the left-hand side. It was Riddell's room. Lynx's daughter. It's an interesting interpretation. Continue. We continued until we reached the intersection. Stairs going upward. Let's go to the atrium. Kid poked her head through the arch-shaped door and took a look around. Huh, it's big in here. Must be some kind of hole. Took a cautious look around, then entered one after another. I wonder if that's going to come to life and attack me. The atrium was a beautiful plaza, complete with a statue that doubled as a fountain. Pillars and arches lined the walls, and in the center was a small pool of clear water, above which the statue stood. On the other side of the room, I could see another arched entrance, like the one we had come through. Ooh, that's cold. Kid was scooping up water from the fountain. I went over to her and, resting my hand on the edge of the marble basin, peered into the pool beneath. Shadows flickered in the water's surface. You reckon those fish are rare? Is it valuable? Kid leaned right over the edge. I couldn't see the bottom. I wondered how deep it was. The shadow of one of the fish grew larger and larger. Whoa! Sensing danger, Kid leapt back from the edge. Clack! A fish leaped out from the water and snapped at her, its jaws bristling with razor-sharp teeth. Its mouth closed shut on the air where she'd been only moments ago, and with a splash, the fish darted back under the water. Piranodons! Deadly, carnivorous fish with razor-sharp teeth and powerful jaws that could snap a monster's horn in half. Staring in horror, I watched as dark shadows began to gather in what little of the pool I could make out. The piranodons must have detected prey. Soon, the room was filled with the sound of splashing and snapping as the fish teemed at the water's surface. Bloody hell! Even Kid was uneasy. She took another step back. How many piranodons were in the pool? The thought what would have happened if they all leapt clear of the water and attacked at once crossed my mind. A bead of cold sweat rolled down my forehead. Suddenly, the water coming from the statue turned crimson and shot out in a powerful jet that nearly touched the ceiling. Kid jumped back again. I just stood in shock, watching the torrent of water erupting from the statue. The scarlet waters continued to gush from the fountain. The pool grew redder and redder and started to overflow. We looked on, entranced, but the spell was soon broken when we realized that the water was starting to flow faster and faster over the rim of the basin. The piranodons began to jump and snap at the water's surface with bloodthirsty glee. I was brought back to my senses by the dull slapping sound of piranodons hitting the floor. Exit on the other side. I pointed at the doorway opposite where we'd come in. I tried my hardest to rush across the red pool, sending up great gouts of crimson water, but it was thick as blood, and I found myself struggling to move. I felt sharp jabs of searing pain as countless piranodons snapped at my legs. Kid gritted her teeth in pain. Said we gotta do something before we get turned into mincemeat. What was I gonna do? Deal with the fish. What? Wanna try this? Pick this lot off one by one? Kid glared at me, her face a picture of exasperated disbelief. Don't be such a bloody idiot, Serge. You want to die here? While I stood there, my mouth agape, the piranodon sank its teeth into my foot. A jolt of pain surged up my leg, making me jump. But what was I going to do? I guess run back the way we came. Let's get out of here. In a panic, we splashed through the water back to the corridor we came from. The fangs of the piranodon snapped at my legs, and I felt a searing pain, but I had to endure it if I had any hope of reaching the entrance. Breathing heavily, I finally found myself back in the corridor outside. Phew, that was a close call. So that whole thing was a trap, eh? Talk about twisted. Lynx is even more of a sick bastard than I thought. I was about to say he wouldn't have to be if he didn't have to guard against people like her breaking into his home, but I thought better of it. Well, at any rate, I think we can consider that a dead end. Let's go back. Defeated, we left the atrium. Something caused Kid to stop in her tracks. Hello, hello. What do we have here? She pointed to the side of the entranceway to the hall. I found myself face to face with the sculpture of an old man's face, with a truly phenomenal beard. The sculpture's eyes seemed to gleam with life. For a piece of marble, it seemed almost too realistic. It's a mouth of truth, announced Majil. An enchanted statue that can tell when you're lying. If it catches you out, it'll bite your hand off. Majil kept his explanation simple so that Kid wouldn't drift off before he got to the important part. Huh, so what's it doing here then? I suspect it's part of a greater mechanism. Stick your hand in its gob, do ya? Righto, let's see what happens, shall we? With a mischievous glint in her eye, Kid darted over and stuck her hand in its mouth without a moment's hesitation. She stood there for a moment, waiting, but it didn't take long for her to get bored. Huh, nothing. Suddenly, I had an idea. Hey, Kid, who's the greatest thief who ever lived? Huh. Me, of course, you drunk. Kid answered without a moment's hesitation, and then suddenly her face twisted with pain. The teeth of the marble statue had clamped down on her hand. Oh, it bit me, she cried. Knock it off. Everyone knows it's true. Ow! The sculpture bit her again as soon as she spoke. Gah, you little... A cold sweat formed on Kid's forehead. The sculpture was tightening its grip. It won't let go until you say something true. Despite the obvious urgency of the situation, Majil was matter-of-fact as ever. Just say anything, Kid. Anything, as long as it's the truth. Obviously, Kid wasn't listening. Instead, she just kicked awkwardly at the statue. Oi, Beardy! Let go of me bloody hand! Her hand is probably bloody at this point. She planted her feet either side of its mouth and tried her hardest to pull it out. She heaved, kicked and stamped, grunted and strained. And then, finally, her hand popped free. I was taken aback by what I'd just witnessed, and couldn't say a word. See? Told you it was the truth. Kid raised her hand in the air triumphantly, as if to demonstrate. I could see heavy bite marks. The sculpture hadn't come away from the struggle unscathed either. Kid's attempt to break free had left it cracked in several places. Majil pointed silently at part of it. I went to take a closer look and saw a pale, flesh-colored tongue. I expect we're supposed to put something there, commented Majil. Something? What exactly? I replied. Kid stood there for a moment, lost in thought. And then she started to unload all the knickknacks she'd been carrying. It was a strange collection of odds and ends, pulled out from her pockets, her boots, and even from her braid. All right, Serge, now it's your turn to have a go at that stupid statue. Kid grinned at me, holding her assortment of knickknacks out in the palms of both hands. I guess she'd decided that whatever further horrors the statue had in store, she'd rather not face them herself. Nice kid. Real nice. Grumbling to myself, I reached out to pick an item. I chose... Some dried grapes. It must be here for some reason. I took a small bag of dried grapes. You like sizable petards and you cannot lie. The other guard likes sizable petards and only lies. What question must you ask about petards to these guards to get through? One by one, I fed them into the sculpture's marble maw. Munch, munch. Ugh, it actually ate them. That's enough, Serge. Those are my emergency rations you're wasting. Kid snatched the bag back from my hands. I saw the last grape, though, so I popped it into my mouth. It was absolutely delicious. They're not for you either, sunshine, growled Kid, glaring at me. You gotta take this seriously, Serge, or should I leave you alone with Beardy here? She was clearly annoyed, but I hadn't worn her patience completely thin yet. I decided to try something else. I chose... The centipede is just such a weird one. What do any of these have to do with truth? Yeah. Yeah, that's what you gotta do. Um, I'm gonna say the centipede grabbed my attention. We're gonna try the centipede. Oh, that is just. What are you doing walking around with a centipede in your pockets? I reeled back in disgust. This isn't your pet or something, is it? Don't be thick, Sedge. It's a toy, not a pet. A toy? You could have picked something nicer. It is nice. Nice for giving people nasty surprises. She seemed to think this was an entirely reasonable attitude. Entirely reasonable to her, maybe. What was she doing with all this stuff? I reached for the rubber centipede. Trying not to think too hard about what I was doing, I stuck it into the mouth of truth, only for it to fall down the back of its throat. Surge! You'll pay for this, growled Kid, staring daggers at me. Yikes, I'll get it back, I promise. Stealing my nerve, I reached into the mouth of truth. Suddenly, my hair stood on end. It was licking my hand. The giant, uncanny tongue slopped back and forth across my fingers like I was a lollipop. Ugh, I'm gonna puke. Keep it together, Surge. Do it for the centipede. Kid's support didn't do much to help me, but I somehow managed to pinch the centipede with the tips of my fingers and pull it out. I must really love this thing. Not really. I just hate seeing stuff go to waste. I'm sorry, what? Why had I even bothered? Well, no look there either. Want to try something else? Asked Kid, almost like this was a game. I just wanted this to be over with. I reached for the next item and chose... Well, 2 down, 6 to go. The mirror is grabbing my attention now. I took the small silver mirror. The sculpture stared impassively, its marble beard still commanding my attention. I stuffed the mirror into its mouth. It didn't seem to be the right item for the job. Don't see any cavities. Yeah, very funny. Now give me my favorite mirror back before that thing chomps it to pieces. She lost her patience and snatched it off me. It was a rather nice mirror. I pictured her gazing into it as she braided her hair. Do you want to try something else? Asked Majil dryly. I chose. I picked up the sizable petard. Anxiously, I shoved it inside of the mouth of truth, but nothing happened. Let the professionals handle this, Sedge. Kid shoved this aside. Me aside. She was holding a match. Wait a second. You can't be serious. All the blood drained from my face. Deadly serious, mate. Before I could say another word, Kid lit the fuse. Hoisted by Kid's own petard. An explosion followed, accompanied by a puff of white smoke. When the smoke had cleared, the mouth of truth came back into view once more, still intact, but now very badly cracked indeed. Not quite enough oomph to knock it off its block off, eh? Should have brought a bigger one. Kid stood there with her arms folded, calmly commenting on the mayhem she'd just caused. What do you think you're doing? I can't believe you just set that thing off like that. Kid shot me a look. What do you mean? What else are you going to do with the bomb? She was a complete and utter liability. Well, any more ideas, Sedge? Asked Kid breezily. I chose. I just want to see what happens if I do another one. It just does it again. Kaboom! Yeah, Kid is rude. Oh. Easy there. Easy there. Well, we're interfacing with a mouth. Let's try the lipstick. Without knowing why, I smeared it all over the statue's mouth. What are you... My lippy! Kid exploded with fury at the sight of the mouth of Truth's bright red lips. What are you getting so mad about? You don't even wear makeup. It's for marking our path to make sure we don't get lost. Huh. I didn't realize. I guess that would explain why you brought it with you. What exactly is that supposed to mean? What's so funny about me having lipstick anyhow? Ugh. Gulp. Nothing at all. It didn't take much for me to tell that this was the calm before the storm. You better buy me some more when we're done here. Yep, she was mad all right. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's just try something else. Kid gave me a doubting glare in response to my apology. Take this seriously or I'm through with you. I gulped and nodded in a panic, then reached out for the next item. Well, file, thread, scroll. I picked up the peculiar piece of parchment. Bracing myself, I shoved it into the mouth of truth. Nice one, Master Thief. You think it's a magic scroll or something? Kid doubled over with laughter. Guess that didn't work. With a sheepish chuckle, I pulled it out again. Oops, my hand slipped and the scroll unfurled. It was filled with strange symbols. Noticing the confused look on my face, Majil spoke up. It's a decoding chart used for the Imperial Guard's field reports. Huh. Well, it's all gibberish to me. Won't be much of a code if it wasn't, would it? Kid muttered witheringly. I was too embarrassed to reply. Once I'd clawed back some of my pride, I attempted a recovery. You'll, have to walk me through it sometime. She just pouted and looked away. Oh, so you can't read it either. Boy, can I pick my moments. Fine, if you can't take this seriously, we're leaving you behind. Sometimes she could be cold as ice. I'd really done it now. She made to leave, but I grabbed her gently by the shoulder. Look, I'm not messing around. I'm sure this next idea is going to work. I'll believe it when I bloody well see it. Kid didn't seem convinced. The stakes were high. I looked at her again at her collection of knickknacks and chose... File or thread? Didn't seem the right item for the job. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I was done. The mouth of truth. I started chewing on the file. I was eating it. Ah! Kid screamed with rage. My file! My lovely, scratchy, scrapey file! I can't believe you just let that happen! Crunch. You're in big trouble now, mate. She was clenching her fists and trembling with fury. Sorry. I'll get you another one, I promise. I also wanted to add, just don't hit me, but thought better of it. I'll hold you to that, muttered Kid in a threatening grumble. You're just going to feed me the statue all my stuff we're done here. I promise that's not what I'm trying to do. You better bloody not be, mate. Once again, she showed me her collection. The only one I haven't tried is the thread. A length of very finely spun silk. Didn't seem like a good idea to just shove it in, so I tried dangling it into the statue's mouth. Watch yourself. That stuff ain't cheap. It's made by royal silkworms, I'll have you know. Kid watched me critically. The thread slipped deeper and deeper into the mouth of truth, and then I felt a slight tug. I tried winding it carefully back around my finger. At the end of it was a small piece of paper. Nice one, Serge. That's got to be a clue. Kid's eyes lit up with delight. Score! What's that? Kid looked confused for a moment, and suddenly the statue's tongue leaped out of its mouth. What the bloody heck? Kid leapt away like a startled cat. Boing! With Kid safely out of the way, I was the only target left within reach. It's all sticky. I'm going to be sick. The tongue had covered my face with thick, warm saliva, but strangely I felt a sort of glow in the places where it had licked me. My aching wounds began responding to the warmth. Majil was leaning against the wall, watching the spectacle in silence. I'm guessing that wasn't the one then. What next? I chose... I did all of them, right? Mirror, file, centipede, lipstick, grapes, thread, petard, scroll. Is there another piece of paper in there? I think this is just going to be the same thing. No, it said try again. We stood in stunned silence. You lucky tricky piece of... Gah! Kid ripped up the paper in a rage and threw it away and started kicking the mouth of truth. Majil was leaning against the wall, watching the spectacle in silence. Let's try again. See, there's another piece of paper in there. I think I'm gonna leave. I lingered for a moment, but pulled my hand away. It didn't seem like any of them were what we were looking for. Alright, let's just forget about it for now, muttered Kid, stowing all her valuables. I was sure we'd find a use for this stuff. Whatever. Best get moving, eh? Defeated, we left the atrium behind us. I think that's a healing magic. Let's go up the stairs. At the top, we found another intersection. Dead end with a large door. Ornate double doors. What's in here? What's in here? Kid gently pushed the heavy doors open and peeked inside. Doesn't look like anyone's in here. It seemed to be the main hall of the manor. There was a massive table, beautiful decorations on the walls, and thick columns decorated with sculptures of birds and beasts. Fixed to the wall in the back towered a tremendous pipe organ, like a burnished black mountain. Yeah, I don't know if this game has a hidden health mechanic to it or not. If the wounds that I have suffered in some of these encounters are carrying over, and that just healed them. I don't know. It's a mystery to me. Dozens of candles provided a dim, flickering light, sending the corners of the room dancing in and out of shadow. Several enormous portraits glowered down from high on the wall. Were these members of Lynx's family? I was busy staring at a painting depicting a young husband and wife when I realized that their eyes had turned to look right at me. Okay, they hadn't. Don't worry, this isn't about to turn into some dumb ghost story. It just looked that way because of the flickering light of the candles reflected against the glossy oil paints. Obviously. Probably. This place gives me the creeps. You get a load of all those ugly mugs. There's nothing for us here. Let's look elsewhere. Neither Majil nor I had any objections. We left the hall and returned to the corridor. Side passage? Hello, door. We went inside. The next thing I knew, Kid had slipped inside. Majil and I followed. Looks like a study. The room was lit by the moonlight coming through the long, slender windows, slanting down in pale beams through the darkness. It was pretty big for a study, with an immaculate antique desk dominating the center. There were rows of bookshelves lined with thick, dusty old tomes. The wall to the rear of the room was decorated with paintings, and shelves of vases and painted plates stood before it. They all seemed to be curios from foreign lands. Let's look at the desk. Search the drawers, a neatly arranged set of pens, ink bottles, and other writing materials, nothing of interest. A small portrait on the desk caught my eye. It was a picture of a young girl with a gentle smile on her lips. Who was she? That's the girl Lynx adopted. If you ask me, it wasn't because he was helping to help the needy, said Kid, peering over my shoulder. She wrinkled her nose in distaste. Not even a looker. Kid? Suddenly there was a knock at the door. It wasn't a loud knock, but in the bottomless silence of the night, it might as well have been a thunderclap. Kid and I stood bolt upright and turned toward it. Magiel, meanwhile, hid in the shadows, drifting away like smoke. Panicked, I whispered to Kid, hide behind the door in the shadows. We kept our bodies low as we silently and swiftly made for the back of the door, where the shadows would keep us hidden. We pressed our backs to the wall and did our best to still our breathing. Slowly, the door opened. Flickering candlelight spread from the doorway with a warm glow. I held my breath. But it seemed that whoever it was didn't mean to come in. They simply stood there. Strange. Thought I heard something. But the lord of the manor is away, of course. Why would there be anyone in here? I have to get over my nerves. Everything was fine until we heard that news that Poor was on the move. The figure quietly closed the door, plunging the room back into darkness. The voice trailed off to a whisper. We remained motionless, keeping our ears pricked for any sign of an unwelcome return. All we heard were footsteps moving away. So Poor has made its move. Magiel emerged from the shadows, contemplating the news we'd overheard. Kid, if the rumors are true, we may be about to find ourselves in a very difficult situation. This seemed to set her thinking too. Poor was a powerful nation that ruled the southern continent. I'd heard it was a prosperous land whose recent and sudden development had pushed it far ahead of its neighbors, which made me wonder, what would its inhabitants want here, out in the sticks? They couldn't be after the frozen flame too, could they? As valuable as it might be, a jewel was just a jewel in the grand scheme of things. I couldn't imagine it being an item of national interest. I mean, ultimately, it was just a pretty rock. Right? Let them do what they want. If everyone's busy playing soldiers, they won't be bothering us. Come on, we got things to do. She headed for the door. We left the room and made our way back down the side passage. So I've done down the stairs, I think, thoroughly. Did we just do the main hall? Yeah, that was with the organ and stuff. Okay. Have we done the terrace? Is this where we came in? Hey kid, how's it going? How long have we been doing this together now? You better shape up or we're leaving you behind. Kid's cold stare pierced through me like the javelin made of ice. Talk about harsh. She didn't need to go that far. We should go back inside. We're not here for fun, muttered Magiel. Well, he said that, but I talked to Kid again. And we just kept talking for hours and hours. Magiel, tell me about what you're thinking. You're doing well tonight, Serge. You're less green than when we first met. What I could see of Magiel's face betrayed no emotion, but I thought I could feel the faintest of friendly gazes from beneath the mask. Right. Dust yourself off and let's get moving. We got work to do, said Kid. Well, she said that, but we went back into the manor. We went left the first time. Let's go right. Found an ancient-looking door again on our right. Dead quiet. Don't reckon anyone's in there. We opened the door. In we go. In we go. Kid stilled her breath and reached for the handle. The door wasn't locked. It swung slowly open. What's this room supposed to be? Place is a dump. Kid had poked her head in through the door, taking a quick peek to see if there was anyone inside, and was disappointed by what she found. The room was large and littered with peculiar-looking machinery and knickknacks, all of which were covered in dust and had seemingly been dumped there haphazardly. Everything looked like it had been there rusting for a very long time. The ends of the room were completely dark, and it was impossible to tell how big it was, or even what the walls and floor looked like. It seemed the manor's inhabitants had turned the old clock tower into a makeshift storage space some time ago. I stepped warily inside. Leave that alone. I looked over toward McGill and saw a kid trying to pull something from the shadows. It was a huge sword that appeared to be very old indeed. You don't need that old bludgeon. It'll only get in the way. And as much of an antique as it is, it won't fetch much on the market in that condition. Yeah? Reckon it might, you know. There's plenty of collectors who just love old bits of junk. Well, some old bits of junk. Pouting, Kid left the sword where she stood. At least she put it down gently. It was then that we heard a voice from the shadows. And what exactly are you doing here, huh? I just about jumped out of my skin. Who's there? Kid and Majil turned to face the voice, ready for a fight. A wizened crone, wizened? Emerged from the shadows. She was hunched over and wore a hood draped over her face. I could tell at a glance that she wasn't just old, she was positively ancient. She's just some dawdlery old bag. What do you think you do at sneaking up on us like that? Kid's shoulders relaxed as the tension left her body. Majil, however, continued to give the woman a piercing stare. Oh, what an impish little thing you are. Here to visit a friend, perhaps? Not in the dead of night, I suspect. The crone narrowed her eyes. Let's get a closer look at you. Ah, yes. You must be here to get your revenge on Lynx. How did she... My heart jumped. She seemed to know exactly who we were. We were in trouble. What if she sounded the alarm? We'd have to give up on the treasure and run for our lives. What were we going to do? Defiantly tell her that she was right. So what if we are? So what if we are? Kid narrowed her eyes right back at the crone. What's it to you if we're here to get our revenge on old Lynxy boy? You gonna do something about it? You never change, do you? The crone chuckled madly, her small frame shaking. Ah, the boldness of youth. Yes, that's the spirit. You what? Kid looked at the crone, completely confused. I was no less mystified. What the heck are you on about? Oh, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago. Yes, it was around then that an innocent young thief stole into the manor, looking to singe Lord Lynx's whiskers. She couldn't have been much older than 10, now that I think about it. Shocked, my gaze turned to Kid. A wet glint appeared in Kid's eyes, but her glare was like ice. It certainly felt as if the temperature in the room had suddenly dropped below freezing. With a chuckle, the crone continued her story, pretending not to have noticed the change in mood. She was an orphan, you know. Came after Lynx to avenge a woman who loved her like her own daughter. But all the vengefulness in the world couldn't change the fact that she was only a little girl. She was no match for Lynx's men, sadly, and they quickly captured her. Lynx is the kind of man one would fear to have for an ally, never mind a foe. Had it not been for the timely assistance of a friend of hers, the girl would have certainly been executed. The way the people of the manor told it, the very shadows pitied the girl, and rushed in to spirit her away. I wonder how much of the tale could be true. I have nothing but sympathy for those who know failure, of course. You can't win all the time, and sometimes, against all odds, fate really can be foiled, and the clockwork of history sent into disarray. No, the ones I have no patience for are those who do not recognize their failure. or who fail and choose to give up as a result. The crone looked up from under her hood, stared Kid directly in the face, and grinned. Kid's anger faded, giving way to a dumbfounded expression. If you wish to steal the jewel from Lynx, if you truly wish to triumph, you'll have to let go of a treasure of your own, Kid. For as long as you cling onto it, the hands of your clock will never move. They'll stay exactly where they came to rest all those years ago. Who are you? Oh, me? Why, I'm just an old bag, like you said. I do apologize. I must have taken up a lot of your time with all my babbling. I'll leave you in peace. Oh, but before I go... The crone turned to face me. You seem to be injured, young man. If you wish, I can take a look at your wounds. No, it's okay. I got licked twice by a weird statue sculpture. Kid? I wasn't sure how to reply. Kid? I looked for an answer. She's asking you, not me. I'm not your bloody mum, came the reply. I turned back to the old crone, only to see that she had vanished. Who the heck was that? Kid couldn't believe her eyes. How could the crone just vanish? We won't find any answers here. Time to move on. Magil brought us back down to earth, emotionless as always. It almost seemed as if he had thought nothing had happened at all. Yeah, I guess you're right. We left the room. Kid stopped in her tracks, signaling to us with a hand behind her back. She drew her knife and stared into the darkness. We heard the clinking of metal from just up ahead. Goblin guards! It wasn't likely there'd be anyone else going for a nighttime stroll around the manor wearing armor. I drew my knife and readied myself. Kid gave me a sideways glance. You know something? You're starting to look like a real thief. Now you just need to walk the walk, she grinned. All right, Serge, Magil, let's get him. Let's get him. Kid leapt forward, confident as ever. It was like she thought nothing could go wrong. Hey, I'm a goblin guard. There were 5 of them in total. They weren't any ordinary goblins, though. Having been well looked after in this palatial manor, they'd grown to be even bigger than Magil. Each of them was carrying the manor goblin's trademark, a morning star consisting of a rod and a heavy, spiked iron ball on a chain. Wait, or is it a flail? I could never remember, and I didn't have time to think more about it. The goblin came rushing at me. Beat it with a knife. I held my knife out in an attempt to parry the attack somehow. Suddenly, the goblin disappeared. I looked to my side to see it buried in the wall with arms and legs akimbo. Did you really expect to stop a morning star with only a knife? Your stupidity will get you killed, shouted Magil, turning to face down 2 more of the goblins. Finish it off. Wham! There was a dull thud as the iron ball crashed into the goblin's helmet. It won't be getting up again anytime soon. Is Kid okay? Kid was squaring off against 2 of the goblins. Their dull, lumbering attacks couldn't touch her as she deftly sidestepped each and every one, striking back nimbly with a knife held in both hands. That was Kid's style. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. But stings make for tough going against enemies that can really take a beating. Both goblins were covered in cuts, but their attacks were as powerful as ever. I rushed in to help Kid deal with one of them. The enemy hadn't noticed me yet. I took my time and chose my target. Morning Star. With all the strength I could summon. Wham! There was a dull thud. A dull thud as the spiked iron ball crashed into the goblin's helmet. It should have knocked the creature clean out, but it was still standing. The goblin turned around, its own morning star dangling from his hand. Its eyes were twitching madly. I'm in for it now, I thought. But then, its pupils rolled up into the back of its head and it crashed lifelessly to the floor. I breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Are you okay, Kid? She wiped the blood off her knife, not saying a word in response. Then she sheathed it and took a step toward me. There was a terrifying look on her face. I was sure I was about to get another earful. She cast a glance at the goblin on the floor. The iron ball was deeply embedded in his skull. Blimey, that must have hurt, she muttered. Then she looked back at me. Never used a morning star before, have you? Could just as easily knocked your own block off swinging around willy-nilly like that. Be careful next time, alright? I thought she was going to yell at me like usual, but there was something almost nice about the way she was telling me off. Thanks, she said softly into my ear, and I felt something warm and soft on my cheek. I was doing great. I felt like nothing could stop me. I don't know how Majil was doing, but I didn't care about that in the moment. Well, that was another fine bloody mess. What did we even bring you for, Serge? Kid's cold stare pierced through me like a javelin made of ice. Continuing on down the corridor, we came across a rather sturdy-looking door on our left. A little further on stood a stairway leading upward. Well, this door is clearly meant to keep something safe. If there ain't some kind of treasure behind it, my name ain't Kid. Yeah, that's the smell of cold, hard cash, all right. Let's go inside. Ugh, what am I, stupid? Of course it's bloody locked. Kid had tried the door handle a few times before giving it a grumpy kick. Bloody door's got a magical barrier on it, and the bloody barrier's got a barrier of its own to boot. It'll take more than me putting the boot in to get through all that. I see. Then, unless we find the key, we don't have a hope of getting inside. Reckon I could handle the key hunt, especially if it's that idiot Lynx who's hidden it. If we can just find his room, I'll sniff it out in 2 seconds flat. Just you watch. There was a little more we could do here, so we continued on. The corridor ended at the foot of some stairs. With Kid in the lead, we headed upstairs. It was dark and the stairwell was narrow. We watched our footing carefully as we climbed. The stone of the steps was worn smooth with age, and I lost count of how many there were as we spiraled onward and upward. An awful sense of foreboding haunted me. I had no idea why, but it felt as though we were marching towards the gallows. When we arrived at the top of the stairs, we were greeted by an old, heavy door, looming in the silence. All was deathly silent, and the still, clammy air added to the sense of ominous apprehension. Something's very wrong here, I muttered without thinking. I hear cursed whispers from beyond the door, Majil added, doing nothing to lift the mood. I'll grow up, will ya? Kid shot back at us derisively. She was already examining the door. Well, it ain't locked, and I don't hear anyone inside. We went inside. All right, here goes. Kid tried the handle. The door opened and with a slow, heavy swing revealed what lay beyond. It was a small, cylindrical room that appeared to be the inside of one of the stone towers. It was completely deserted, and there were no windows. What's this supposed to be? Something about this place gives me the creeps. Still standing in the doorway, Kid seemed suddenly taken aback. There might be something in here. Let's take a closer look. A closer look at the bloody empty room? Pah, might as well, I guess. We did climb all them stairs. Kid stepped through the door, grumbling under her breath. I scanned the room and then noticed something on the floor. The flagstones were covered in dozens of narrow scratches, and in places there were thick, black stains. Something in the stains spoke of a horror that no amount of scrubbing would ever wash away. A malice and a sadness beyond imagining. There's something written here. Crouching in front of the wall, Majil was inspecting some brownish markings that looked more of the same stains. Someone's carved letters into the wall and scrambled them up using blood magic. Kid had gone over to take a look. Looks pretty old. Hard to read, too. Some of it's been worn away. Let's see. I cannot hold out much longer. My only hope now is to leave the Acacian signet in this room. The Acacian signet? Suddenly, the door slammed shut. We jumped to our feet with a start. From above us, we heard an unsettling creaking sound. The walls and floor began to tremble. What the hell's going on? Kid's eyes darted around the room as she desperately tried to figure out what was happening. The creaking sound from above continued, and the ceiling moved ominously closer. There! Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh no. Not again. We've walked right into a bloody trap. Kid bit her lip. We've got to do something about this and fast. Smash down the wall. Good idea. There's got to be a hidden door or something somewhere. Panicked, we tried thumping the walls to see what we could find, but all we came up against was solid, unyielding stone. Shunk! Ah! The edge of one of the descending blades sliced into my forehead. There was no time. What were we going to do? Stop the ceiling. How? I had no idea. Some sort of hidden switch somewhere? Brushed our hands against the floor and walls to see if anything had escaped our notice. Shunk! Ah, my shoulder! We had to do something and fast. I guess barge the door down. It was far too heavy, and her kid's light frame bounced right off it. Damn it! The shield raced towards the door like the wind, smashing into it with ferocious force. It made a creaking sound and shook from the impact, but stood firm. Desperately, I hurled myself at it too. The shock of the impact rushed through my body, but was no good. Countless blades popping in and out as the creaking ceiling moved downward. This is going to take all three of us. Timing our blows, we charged the door at once. Once, twice, a third time, and then the door was open, and we collapsed in a heap in the corridor outside. Behind us, we heard the sound of the bladed ceiling grinding on the stone floor of the tower room. The metallic scraping it made was awful. We could only look on in silent horror at the fate we'd so narrowly evaded. The machinery continued for a short while, before slowly coming to a stop. It seemed the ceiling trap had finally finished its grisly work. Bugger me! Talk about a nasty surprise. Is it some sort of execution chamber? Magiel continued, seeming to be deep in thought. In any case, that writing mentioned Acacia. Yeah, but what was all that about? I asked. The Acacia Dragoons, the elite knightly order serving General Viper, who once governed the territory of Gallisburg to the west. Former knightly order, I should say. They were wiped out more than a decade ago, by the lord of this very manor, no less. Uh-huh. Thanks for the history lesson, Mag. Kid rose to her feet, patting off the dust. Too bad we're not here for fairy tale nights. Come on, we've got a lot more exploring left to do. Magiel shrugged silently and headed back to the stairs. With Kid in the lead, we headed downstairs. Eventually coming across a sturdy-looking door, presumably still locked. Yep. Oh, is she going to appear again? Any little old ladies in here? No? No kindly old dears who know more than they're letting on, lurking in the shadows? Come out, wherever you are. Oh, lady, show yourself. Silence spoke volumes. This is a waste of time, pronounced Magiel flatly, turning on his heel. We left the dusty old storage room. I guess back to the terrace. Any new thoughts from either of y'all? Talk about harsh. You seem to be coping better than I had expected, Serge. I told you before we left, you can count on me. I might have taken a few knocks, but I was alright. Nothing that would get the better of me anytime soon. Did we finish exploring the study? Serge, we don't have time for this. We're not going to magically find something useful by trying the same bloody room over and over again. Not the terrace. Let's try the main hall. I'm a little bit perplexed, I will admit. Yeah, so the candles, the portrait. Okay. Back down the stairs then. Deeper into the blackness. Atrium is the piranhas. Anything else in Riddell's room? Let's find out. Oh, a window was open. Was it open before? There's a leaf. Someone been in here only moments ago. Something cold landed on me from above. I put my hand up to my hair and felt a quease-inducing sliminess. Ugh, slugs! I lifted my head toward where it had come from, and the mass of the disgusting creatures hit me full in the face. Blah! Just as I could brush them off, more of them landed on me. And around me. It was literally raining slugs. Hallelujah! Before I knew it, they'd begun to pile up wetly around my feet. They crawled all over me, and I flapped and flailed as I tried to shake them loose. Quickly, back the way we came! But as we turned, we saw that the entire corridor was a writhing mass of the creatures. It's like the floor is made of them. A shiver of revulsion ran down my spine. I ain't trampling over that little carpet of gross. Kid shook her head violently, clearly far from amused. But the more we stood there wondering what to do, the more of them kept piling up. Pick our way through them. I'd made my mind up to step into the writhing mass when Kid stopped me. No, I can't do it. Not slugs. I had no option but to crouch down and offer to carry her. All right, hop on. She happily jumped onto my back. Phew, she was heavier than I thought. With every step I staggered forward. Kid wrapped her arms more tightly around my neck. If I'd had time to think about it, I might have swooned a little. Ah, one fell down my neck, screamed Kid. I struggled to keep from dropping her as she wriggled and writhed. Serge, get it out, she cried, squeezing me tighter and tighter. Get down first, I gasped. She had no choice but to swallow her revulsion and climb down. Yeah, she gave another huge scream. I looked behind me to see that she jumped down right on top of a slug as thick as my arm. Her boots were covered in gooey wads of burst slug guts, and a sickly green stain was quickly spreading over them. I can't play deal with this. She leapt right back and started squeezing my neck even more tightly than before. I could barely breathe. Knock it off, Kid. You're choking me. I managed to pry her free, but not without some serious effort. At that moment, Michelle appeared unexpectedly from the shadows and pointed to a bend in the corridor. There. A gout of flame erupted from his fingertip. The flames chased something screaming from the shadows. and it came barreling straight toward us. That thing is a huge weapon. I'm going to throw myself to one side. The monster's scythe whooshed through the air toward me. I kept my body low and dodged to avoid the attack. I was alright. It had only grazed my clothes. But I still had to be on my guard. Demon! A bloody demon! Spat Kid. So all that creepy stuff was an illusion? The slugs disappeared like smoke. But the demon was still there. It readied its scythe again and began inching toward us. What was I gonna do? This is not a fight where I'm gonna try and charge in. I'm gonna be on the counterattack. I watched the demon carefully, keeping a tight grip on my knife. My shield didn't waste a moment and let rip with a spell. A ball of flame slammed into the creature. I could smell the stench of burnt flesh. The demon's eyes reddened, and it bared its fangs. Cursed whispers filled the air. It was casting a spell. Slash at it with the knife. Leave this to me, I yelled at exactly the same time as Kid. I slipped around to the left side of the demon as it swung its scythe down. Whoosh! The blade sliced the air a hair's breadth from my nose. A single moment later, and I'd have no nose left to speak of. Kid took advantage while the demon was focused on me and moved to stab it full in the back. The creature let out a grotesque howl and collapsed to the floor. Huh! Did you plan to beat the decoy so I could finish it off, or was that just a coincidence? Either way, it did the trick. Kid beamed with pride. The demon's blue blood coiled on the floor as it lay there, writhing in pain. Its face contorted with agony. It glared at us and began tracing strange shapes on the ground with the last of its strength. Kid sensed that something wicked was afoot. Just die already, will ya? But the demon carried on writing. Strange shapes forming from its blood. An eerie light illuminated the hastily scrawled curse. And then there was a flash. Lightning-like bolts of energy danced around my feet. Kid, who was standing right next to the demon, jumped back with a start. And then started drawing even more of the strange symbols. She took advantage while the creature was still concentrating. She twisted her body, stretched out a leg, and swung it in a graceful arc right into the demon's belly. With a final gasp, it collapsed on top of its unfinished hex. And at last, it lay still. Da 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 da. Whew. I'd taken a few knocks, but I was all right. A scrape or two wouldn't stop me. Maybe I ain't such a drongo after all. Just goes to show. It's another half-baked compliment. I felt I did well in that fight. Let's go inside. Hello, mirror. What is your desire? Where's the key to the vault? The study. You'll find the key in the place I have revealed. I knew it. It is inside a book with a purple cover in the furthest bookshelf from the door. It appears the spirit has left for another mirror, commented Majil. To the study, then. As I made to leave the room, a low voice rumbled through the air, stopping me dead in my tracks. Beware. He knows. Was it the voice of the mirror again? What did it mean? Hurry up or we're leaving you behind, Sage, called Kid from outside. Flustered, I rushed after her. The corridor stretched out beyond the door. Last time I went in there, I got attacked by a demon when I came out. I don't want to do that again. The thing about that is I don't want to do it again. Let's go visit the study. Let's go visit the study. Let's go visit the study and get a key to a door. Right, let's find this key. What did the mirror say it was again, Serge? She was asking me? How was I supposed to remember? I think it was supposed to be the one with a purple cover in the nearest bookcase. Alright, let's see. Seeming to take my word for it, Kid made for the case in question. Right, this is the one. Purple cover, purple cover. Aha! This has got to be it. She pulled out a book from the lowest shelf. Majil and I watched as she flicked through the pages. Her right eye narrowed like a cat's as she read through the arcane script, which meant nothing to me. Let's see here. The stricken Neo-Epoch was flung into stasis, making an emergency jump without deploying phase shift. Major engine damage. Output is at 30% of operating norms. 6 charges remaining in the anti-particle cannon. Shields effective in 16 sectors. L spin response on the starboard stern. Enemy vessel incoming? Gatto? Hurry with the awakening? Skirmishers, make ready for our last stand? What the hell is this? It's got nothing to do with what we're looking for. Is this another stupid joke, Serge? As if I could have predicted what the book said. Well, I'm talking to you. Where's the real book? Was that not it? I thought I had that right. Am I misremembering purple? In the furthest bookcase? Yeah, okay. Nailed it. Nice one, Serge. Finally, time to get a look at this treasure. Aw, no slugs. Towards the terrace. What's that? She jabbed a finger at something in the darkness. Straining my eyes, I could see a pale... It's a skeleton. We fought a skeleton before. Catch it. If it works, it works. A leather bag on the ground containing a sparkling gem. Now we're talking. Kid's face lit up with joy. Nice find, Sedge. What a beaut. Kid snatched it away, leaving me to settle for the compliment. Phew. I'd taken a few knocks, but I was all right. A scrape or two wouldn't stop me. Do 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 do. Continue. Oh, what is it? Another skeleton? 3 skeletons. Part of me is tempted to try something else, but another part of me knows that I don't have any reliable healing options. And I would rather not get hurt by a skeleton when I can safely defeat it. Lines of magical light flashed across the surface of the door and vanished as various magical barriers were dispelled. Up, down, left, right, blue, red, green, every color under the sun. You know, those colors like down and right. And then all was quiet, and the darkness of the manor returned. Right. We're in. With a creak, the heavy door gently swung open, And soon I saw what was inside. As soon as I saw what was inside, I gave a gasp. Kid stepped inside. Whoa! We've hit the mother lode! Out of the darkness loomed a veritable mountain of gold, silver, priceless works of art, and exquisite trinkets. Kid looked as if she were on the verge of drooling at the sight of it all. But what thief wouldn't have been? After all, this was the kind of hoard that few people would ever come across in their lifetime. The smallest fraction of this vast mound of riches would have seen even the most careless spendthrift set for life. Our goal is the frozen flame. Ignore the rest. Majil spoke with an icy dedication to our mission. He had not even batted an eyelid at the sight that greeted us. Yeah, I know. She was disappointed, of course, but she soon set about scanning the room for the object of her hunt. Wait, is that it? Look on the pedestal over there. I turned to see what Kid was pointing at. There it was, a small yet perfectly formed jewel that gave off a pale red light, a jewel that looked like a flickering fire suspended in time. The frozen flame! Silently, Majil walked towards the pedestal. I called out, Wait, we have to be careful. You're right. This is Lynx we're dealing with after all. It may very well be trapped. We should be on our guard. We have to be quick about this. Well, fine, have it your way, grumbled Kid, looking away. Majil examined the pedestal for a short while, then paused. We were wise to be cautious. Placing his left hand on the base of the pedestal, he muttered an incantation, drawing quick sigils in the air with his right hand. Some glyphs appeared on its smooth surface, and for a moment blazed brightly. There, now we can proceed. Majil calmly reached out and grabbed hold of the red jewel. Dun da 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 da! Surge and his friends obtained the frozen flame. Phew, we'd managed to get what we came for without anything horrible happening to us other than the slugs and the piranodons. I breathed a sigh of relief and turned again to Majil. He was staring silently at the jewel in his hands. Majil, we did it! Let's get out of... Before I could finish, the frozen flame crumbled to dust. This flame was a fake. Lynx must be keeping the real one somewhere safe. What? Suddenly a siren rang out. The room was flooded with light, and metal bars slammed down in front of the door. I turned with a gasp to see Kid frozen, an ornate crown in her hands, and a wide-eyed look of awkward shock on her face. Dun da 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 da! Kid and her friends obtained a golden crown, too. You're kidding me, right? You had to go and... You complete bonehead! I let rip with a stream of choice insults. In my head, that is. Metallic parrots in the four corners of the room suddenly came to life, flapping their wings and screeching. Thieves! Thieves! We're in trouble. These things are going nowhere, said Majil, inspecting the bars covering the door. Although, to look at him, you wouldn't have thought there was anything wrong. Which way? Which way? The parrots! To the vault! The vault! We heard the voices in the distance. The manor guards were coming. Kid dived behind a pile of gold coins. Find somewhere to hide! In a panic, I looked around the room. There was a large chest sitting wide open next to a pillar. I rushed to empty it out, then plunged in head first and closed the lid. The metal parrots. Captain, there's no sign of anyone in there, no sign. Strange, peculiar. No one has ever escaped before. None have ever fled the mousetrap's clutches, none. I gently pushed up the lid of the chest and peeked through the gap. There were 5 goblins wearing suits of armor unlocking the gate and about to make their way inside. One of the goblins looked around the room, jerking his neck as he peered into the shadows. Captain? What if it actually was a mouse this time? Chef was grumbling about mouses the other day, Captain. A mouse? A rodent? A rat? Would a teeny tiny thing like that really have sprung the trap? Replied a stocky, plump-looking goblin, who must have been the captain. He didn't seem convinced. That was when I heard a strange but oddly familiar sound from the corner of the room. It was coming from where Kid was hiding. Startled, the troop of goblins stopped and looked at each other. For a moment, none of them spoke. Eventually, the goblin captain rubbed his chin through his jowls and offered his thoughts. Mouses. I'm sure Chef was complaining about cats. Meow. Meow. That voice again. Again, silence. The goblins only looked at each other. Funny you should say that, Captain. Way I heard it, it weren't mouses or cats, it was a hecarim. An awkward silence followed. In my mind's eye, I could see Kid racking her brains to work out what a hecarim was. I smell a rat, by which I mean a thief. Following the captain's lead, the guards reached for their weapons, and then... Heck! Heck, heck, heck! Heck, heck, heck! Heck, heck, heck! Ran, heckaran! Oh, it's a Pokemon! Listen, it really is a hecarim, by heck, that proves it! The goblin guards grinned and nodded to each other. Cheeky little devil. Surprised me there. Let's get out of here, boys. Apparently it is a Pokemon. The goblins filed out of the vault. I breathed a sigh of relief. And then they came charging back in with a mighty roar. There's no such thing as hecarims. What, you sneaky little buggers? Roared Kid, leaping out from behind the pile of gold coins. You're one to talk, thief. Brandishing their weapons menacingly, the goblins moved slowly forward, forcing Kid into a corner. I quietly eased open the lid of the coffer and slipped out. Can't leave you anywhere, can I muttered to myself. I knew Kid could handle herself, but she didn't fancy her odds against a whole troop of heavily armed goblins. For a moment, I wasn't sure what to do, but then I made up my mind. I have to save Kid. There was no way I was going to abandon a friend in need. Even if it meant facing off against a group of 5 goblin guards, I'd find a way to come out on top. I hoped. I drew the knife from my belt and leapt into the middle of the room. Hey, snot for brainses, over here! The goblins all turned to look at me at the same time. 10 beady, cruel little eyes all staring daggers at me. Fool, in a hurry to die, are we? I gulped, and wondered if making a run for it might have been the better plan of action after all. Ah, humans are so stupid. The goblin captain chuckled and licked his teeth. Yep, this one's got a death wish, all right. Why else would it be so stupid to come after Lord Lynx's treasure? Huh, that's a first. Being called dumb by a bloody goblin. Try acting tough when you're crying to your mum later on. Judging by Kid's response, she wasn't feeling massively threatened. And you tell her it was Kid who kicked your teeth in. So you're Kid, are you? The sneaky little slippery little thief we've heard so much about. The goblin narrowed his eyes. Lord Lynx will be thanking me from now until my retirement when I bring him your head on a silver platter. The goblin captain pulled his morning star from his waist and started swinging. You don't know who you're messing with. We ain't no ordinary goblins, sweetheart. We're Lord Lynx's elite guard. The goblins that gobble up other goblins. That's right. The Gob Squad. Now quit shooting your mouth off and let me stick a boot in it. And with that, Kid launched a lightning-fast spinning kick. Her boot connected with the side of the goblin's head with a crack, sending the creature tumbling to the ground. Get him, lads! This boy looks scrawny. Start with him. The goblin captain spun the heavy metal ball of his morning star in the air. Glorious Gob Strike! Aye aye! The goblins charged across the room in response to their captain's command. Gob Strike incoming! Dodge it. The morning star brushed past my cheek. I don't know how, but I managed to escape unscathed. I lost my balance though and fell clumsily to the floor. My shield conjured up a black wind which surged forth like a shearing tempest. How does a human know a spell like that? Who are you? The goblin was quickly silenced as the rushing winds tore through it, and it collapsed to the floor with a final shriek. Majil looked down at his victim, his expression unchanged. Another goblin flew down from overhead. Bombs away! With a growl, it sent its morning star swinging from above. Roll away. I wasn't fast enough, and the iron ball crashed straight into my back. I let out a howl as the force of the impact juddered through my body. I'd never felt such raw pain in my entire life. I rolled around the floor in agony. Dance for me, boy. Let me hear you sing. As I crawled on the floor, the shadow of the goblin towered over me like a black mountain. Die, brat! Its lip curled around its fangs in a leering grin, and I raised its weapon over its head. Oh, no, you don't. You have to get through me first. The kid lashed out with a lightning-fast kick. There's more where that came from. Please, have mercy. The stricken goblin had collapsed to the floor, its eyes eyed with fear. This ain't a game, Surge. Watch yourself, will ya? My head was spinning, but I managed to take the opportunity to rise to my feet. Gob strike incoming! I cannot parry it. I tried to at least dodge it. The morning star slammed into my shoulder with a sickening impact. I writhed in agony, at the same time trying not to lose sight of where the next blow might be coming from. That's a spirit scrawn bag. I ain't done with you yet. Majil conjured up the black wind again. How does a human know it's spelled like that? Another goblin. Jump up for a counterattack. I tackled the goblin head-on and bounced helplessly off its enormous rock-like body, slamming head-first into the floor. The shock of the impact jolted through my body. Gob strike incoming! Dodge it. This is not going well for me. I'm just here so that Majil can get off these black winds, I guess. Long live Lord Lynx! Glory to the Gob Squad! With these final words, the goblin collapsed. That was the last of them. We made it. Piece of cake, said Kid, putting a brave face on things as she wiped the sweat from her brow with her arm. And then she stopped and looked at me. Surge, what were you thinking, you great drongo? Getting the goblins to come after you like that? You really didn't have to, you know. Still, thanks. Can't say I wasn't happy to see a crazy ass jump in like that. She was actually smiling at me. Kid's smile kindled a light in me, and with it, a peculiar warmth that came in ripples. And then Majil stepped in. Save the chatter for later. We can't waste any more time here. The frozen flame must be somewhere else in the manor. All right, mate. Thanks for stating the obvious. It's not my bloody fault that Lynx has to make things so bloody difficult for everyone. Kid spun on her heel and made a sulky about face for the door. Suddenly, her attention returned to the pile of defeated goblins. This bunch of drongos said they're Lynx's elite guard, right? But they've got some nice loot on them. With that, she started unceremoniously rummaging through the fallen captain's pockets. She was like a hyena, sniffing for scraps. Hello, what's this? She found an odd metal plate. It resembled an open hand and was covered in runes. Reckon that might open some other magic door somewhere. Well, you never know when it might come in handy. Either way, finders keepers. The plate vanished into Kid's pocket. Looks like there's nothing else worth taking unless you count pocket lint and bits of string. She rose to her feet and looked around the room. You know, it's a real shame to leave the rest of all this loot just sitting here, unloved. Suppose we can come back for it whenever. Kid turned to face us and flashed a grin. All right, lads, let's get a move on. Ain't gonna be dark forever. That hand-shaped plate is our only clue for now, muttered Majil, seemingly to himself. And with that, we left the vault in search of the real frozen flame. I'm going to try the tower. Guess we're not going into the tower. I thought that maybe the hidden thing might be related, but I guess it's not. Lynx's room would probably be the best bet, huh? I doubt that she's back, but let's check and see. Save the clock tower! Left back to the terrace. Not gonna go out. Not the study. Let's try the main hall, because nothing really happened in here before. Which makes me curious. Candles, portraits. Did those eyes move? No, I was just seeing things again. Okay. It was worth a shot, but it was the same thing we've done before. Twice now, I think. Down the stairs. The atrium is tempting, but I'm going to check these rooms again. This teacup is still warm after all this time. There's that leaf again. Lynx's room is the most obvious to me. Although the only thing that was in here was the mirror, and that was a pretty significant thing, which makes me, from a design standpoint... So this is where you've been hiding, Lynx, yelled Kid as she barged into the room. What? Is Lynx here? I followed after her, panicking. I looked around the room to see no one else but us. Where is he? It was a joke, idiot. All the strength drained from my body. Thought I was serious, did you? Chuckled Kid, trying not to laugh too hard. I bet you wish you were living the easy life rather than traipsing around after me, eh? Your face. I ignored her and walked to the mirror. I'm gonna guess the spirit is still not here. Hi there. Sorry about all the noise. Statue of Venus in the mirror giggled back at me. That's quite all right, Serge. What is your desire? Came her husky alto. Nothing much. Just thought I'd check up on you since I was here. You mustn't say such things. Your friends will become envious. She giggled mischievously. You what? You what? Said Kid, her voice completely flat. And why would I be envious? Please, there's no need to get upset. I have a gift for you. Oh, yeah? Yes, well, one might call it that. You see, I thought you might be interested to see what it's like inside the mirror. Wait, so you're inviting us into the realm of mirrors? Kid's interest was suddenly piqued. It won't take up much of your time. Come, Kid, step inside. The surface of the mirror rippled like water. Kid reached out her hand towards the glass, then hesitated. She deliberated for a moment before finally pulling it back. You go first, Serge. You're her favorite. Are you sure? Kid nodded, and, filled with excitement, I pressed my hands to the mirror. The surface was like cool water on my fingertips. No, Serge, you mustn't. A little late. Suddenly cracks formed in the glass. I gasped. What's happening? I wish you weren't so trusting. You forget that I serve Lynx. What? I meant to trap you and your friends. The cracks in the mirror grew bigger, splintering off into more and smaller cracks. And that is not all. I foresaw your coming long ago and warned Lynx of it. But why? You were imprisoned here by Lynx, weren't you? Sighed Magiel. The statue of Venus nodded mournfully. He sealed the path to mirrors beyond, preventing me from leaving the manor. Were someone to shatter all the mirrors within the manor's walls, I would be doomed. I would vanish, separated from my siblings forever. Eventually, the statue raised its head. But I cannot stand to be at his mercy anymore. The cracks deepened further, and shards of glass began to fall to the floor. Stop! I can't let you do this, I yelled, grabbing the mirror frame with both hands. This is what I want. Lynx will not suffer me to live after betraying him, said the image in the mirror, looking at me. But why are you trying to help us? Will that be your final question, Serge? Something in its voice felt like the trace of a smile. Very well. The truth is, But just then, the mirror finally split from top to bottom. The image's lips moved gently, but no words came. I tried to scream, but I could do little more than whimper. I took a shard of glass from the floor and gripped it tightly in my hand. Serge? Behind me, Kid was softly calling my name. I gave a slight nod and slowly turned around. Let's go. As we left the room, I turned to look back one last time, my eyes coming to rest on the remains of the mirror. I'd never be able to hear her voice again. I turned again and left the room. Atrium, I guess. Yeah, that's what I was hoping. There it is. I mean, does Serge deserve better friends? I think that Kid is being a bit harsh, but Serge could just leave. I took the hand-shaped metal plate we'd found. After taking another look at the runes, I was no closer to working out what they might mean. Here goes nothing. I stuck the plate into the mouth of Truth's marble maw. As soon as I did so, its eyes rolled upward, and the wall gave a light judder. A low rumbling sound came from the sculpture's mouth. This, indeed, is the ultimate truth of the universe. Did you hear something? Yeah. I watched the mouth of Truth in confusion. Its great marble tongue lolled out almost like a snake. It coiled around the plate, seizing it and pulling it deep inside. What's going on? In a panic, I looked to Magiel for answers. Seems this ineffable truth of the universe has left even the mouth of Truth tongue-tied. Magiel answered in his usual deadpan manner. I think he might have even been trying to make a joke. Hang on, so that plate thingy revealed the truth of the universe? And you went and crammed it into down Beardy's gullet? Do you realize how much we could have sold that for? Kid kicked the floor in frustration and snapped her fingers. And then, drains on all sides of the room suddenly opened wide. The red water formed eddies as it sank away. Helpless, the pteranodons were washed away with the current. Soon only trickles of water were left, slowly dripping away. Well, that's a stroke of luck, ain't it? Guess we won't be sleeping with the fishes tonight, grinned Kid, looking at the empty pool. We crossed the drained room, making for the exit on the other side, and pressed on. We went through the atrium and continued down the corridor, finding ourselves at a fork in the road. The corridor stretched off to the left and right. We continued down the corridor, eventually reaching an old, rather sturdy-looking door. Bloody marvelous. Another bloody door with a bloody magical barrier on it. Wonder what's inside. Sixth sense tells me it ain't treasure, Kid whispered back to us as she examined the door. I suspect this is the manor's dungeon, replied Majil, his eyes closed in concentration. I can hear the sound of someone moaning in the darkness on the other side. But there is nothing we could do, and thus it is of little concern to us now. Let us turn back. A scream pierced through the darkness, turning my blood to ice. I realized then that a pair of crazed, blood-red eyes was staring into the depths of my soul. It was a griffin! In a panic, I tried to slip the knife from my belt, but before I could draw my weapon, the griffin had spread its powerful wings and swooped toward me with an almighty screech. I was knocked back and sent rolling across the ground. I gasped with pain as the wind was knocked out of me. Serge, you okay? Every nerve in my body was screaming with pain. I held back the groans and staggered to my feet. I looked up to see the massive griffin in front of me. Its hellish red eyes stared down its beak. It was going to attack. What could I do? Quack, quack, I duck. The griffin suddenly beat its wings wildly, sending a barrage of razor-sharp feathers flying right at me. Fortunately, every single one of them flew clean over my head. It had been a close shave. I rose to my feet and faced the griffin again. As the beast's mad red eyes glared at me, I desperately tightened my grip on the knife. I attacked. I reversed my grip on my knife and plunged it into the griffin's neck with all my might. The griffin's body contorted with agony. Driven mad with rage, the griffin shook its head this way and that. I quickly pulled my knife out from its neck and rolled away to put some space between us. Don't move, Sedge, yelled Kid from behind me. Suddenly, she landed on my shoulders and leapt up into the air. Crack! Her knee crashed into the side of the creature's skull, making a crunching sound I could feel in my bones. The griffin screeched in agony, and then its mad, crazed eyes turned towards me, where I lay on the floor, having been used like a springboard by Kid. Just my luck. It was going to attack. What could I do? I hope that you don't lose power. Oh, I should have been paying attention to this. The beast's massive beak came slicing down towards me. A flash of light rushed through my head, and I was sent reeling over backwards. I was finished. A red haze drifted down to fill my eyes. Kid's screams grew more and more distant as my consciousness plunged into a bottomless darkness. And that was how I died. Aw, beans. How far back was that? All right. The tragic death of the spirit in the mirror again. There's no choices to be made here, so I'm just button mashing my way through it. I am curious how much of this is predetermined and how much of it is random. Like the the griffin encounter. I can just go to the right instead of to the left. Atrium. I'm going to use the thread a few times, see if it'll heal me up. Hopefully that healed me. I don't know. We'll find... Well, hopefully we won't find out. We just did this. We power through. We persevere. Oh. Oh. I should have been paying attention. Jump back to evade the attack. Want its weapon. Sorry I'm not narrating this, I'm just trying to get back to where I was. So yes, there is some randomness. Go down some stairs. Slowly we crept down the staircase. Guard room. Let's get around. Who knew what kind of mess we were about to get into? Maybe, but with Surge around, who knows what kind of traps we're about to walk into. What a trusting relationship we enjoyed. Then let us turn back for now. We made our way back through the corridor. A small door. Yeah, with that, something smells good. This must be the kitchen. Blimey, this is a small kitchen. Must be for the servants, commented Majil. I scanned our surroundings. A basin for washing dishes, cooking utensils, some food made ready for tomorrow, and a mousetrap. Looked just like any other commoner's kitchen. Kid walked over to a large pot filled with food and peered inside. Looks like tomorrow's lunch. Want to try some, Serge? I was feeling hungry. Timidly, I peered into the pot. Looked like stew and it didn't smell bad at all. It was inviting. I scooped some up with a ladle and brought it to my mouth. It was delicious. This stuff's delicious. You should grab a bowl, kid. Kid looked at me again. Staring at me intently, in fact, like she was searching for something. Well, you ain't going green or nothing. Guess it's safe. All right, let's have a try. She licked her lips in anticipation and swiped my spoon right out of my hand. Fancy a taste, Mag? No. Kid grabbed a bowl from nearby and began spooning out more. I did the same. We ate our fill. The stew was still warm, and it felt as though the magic of fresh home cooking was easing my wounds somewhat. Suddenly, a little voice rang out. You there, the young man with the braid. Kid froze. Oh, who you calling a bloke? Kid barked angrily in the direction of that the voice was coming from. A mouse was looking at us, with eyes like saucers, from the inside of the mousetrap hanging from the wall in a corner of the room. Oh, I'm sorry. You're a young lady, I see. The mouse bowed its head in apology. Please, kind young lady, you must hear me out. The mouse put its paws together and stared pleadingly at Kid. I left the nest to find food for my mother, but as you can see, I managed to get myself caught in a trap. If you'll leave me here, I will surely be eaten by goblins. Kid eyed the little creature suspiciously. Eaten by goblins? Wait, that's stew. Putting two and two together, Kid ran for the sink. I beg of you, please, free me from this trap. My mother is sick, and she'll be terribly worried about what has happened to me. The mouse was clearly begging for its life, but there was also an odd little glint in its eye. Meanwhile, Kid was at the sink. Blorfed. Ugh, I'm never going to get that taste out of my mouth. I'll be buggered if I'm hanging around here any longer. Kid had returned from the sink, only to stamp off towards the door. She was looking very green around the gills. Kindly young lady, I don't suppose you could free me first? You got yourself into this, Bess. You can sort it out yourself. Kid all but spat on the ground as she left the room. The mouse's eyes welled up as it looked at me. Young man, please, you're my only hope. This mouse is sus. On the other hand, the mouse is trapped. Yeah, fine. Unable to bear it staring at me anymore with those pleading eyes, I lifted down the cage and opened the door. The mouse bounded happily out from inside. The mouse gave a wicked chuckle. You poor naive fool. Oi, Serge, what are you doing? Kid stopped in horror the moment she opened the door. Bugger me, a griffin! Idiot humans. My mother is not sick, but yours will be when she sees what I've done to you. Good going, Serge. You're a bloody liability, you are. Maybe I made a mistake, but she didn't have to rub it in like that. Oh, bother. I'm too hungry to even fight properly. What on earth? I breathed a sigh of relief and running a hand down my chest. All right, little mouse. Now it's time for the real show to begin. Kid walked up to the griffin, cracking her knuckles. Gulp. Please, kind young lady, this is a misunderstanding, a terrible misunderstanding. Panicking, the creature leapt to its feet. You can't kill me. I have useful information. If you let me go, I promise I'll tell you everything I know. Everything. Yeah? Huh. I know how much a promise from the likes of you is worth. Kid took another step toward the griffin, not skipping a beat. Wrong! Please! Kid kept on coming. The griffin kept on shrinking away. Enough! Majio called for Kid to stop. Let's hear it. Oh, thank you, kind sir. The griffin was beside itself with relief. Spoil my fun, why don't ya? Grumbled Kid, pouting as she turned away. Listen well, O merciful Savior. Right thrice, left twice, right twice. Should you find yourself trapped in one of Lynx's swirling snares, remember my words. Hold on. the... Where's a piece of paper I can use? Chipotle napkin is going to hold the info. Right times 3. Left times 2. Right times 2. Swirling snare. With that, the griffin returned to its mouse-like form and disappeared into a small hole in the wall. Trapped in Lynx's snares? Ha! As if I'd be thick enough to walk into one of his traps. Kid, you've done it several times now. Let's get out of here. We wasted enough time already. Kid turned on her heel and made for the door. We left the kitchen. This was guards, right? And I think I need to see that this door is locked. This might be a flag that I need to raise. Let's go atrium. Continue on. I'm not sure. Someone just keeps coming in and freshening up the teacup. I keep coming back later. I don't find anybody. Let's go here and then go upstairs, I guess. So let me see something. If we go terrace, does kid have anything useful to say? Alright, Serge. Finally starting to learn how to get your hands dirty, aren't you? Ain't you? I guess people really can change, if they put in the effort. Kid's eyes shone with an impish playfulness. Well, she hasn't seen anything yet. She should go back inside. We're not here for fun. The wall is moving. 2 enormous goblins. What's up? It's me, a goblin. Sorry, my voice is starting to give out. And I jumped back. Let me just try and steal its mace. Yeah, yeah, good job. Okay. Continue on. Continue on. Continue on. Have I checked? Oh. Goblins again. Five of them. Swing my mace down on it. Or its mace down on it. The ghost is toast. I'm tempted to look up a guide. And so I will. Radical Dreamers Guide. Did I miss something? Because it looks like I should meet someone when I'm outside the guard's room. Check the study again. Heck, it's a griffin. Heck. Yeah. Done this. And I turn around and it says go straight after this. Down the stairs. Why was it not let me do that before? I might be misremembering, but I don't think I could do that before. Kid opened the door. The room had seemed completely silent from the outside, and so we had thought it would be empty, but there was a lone goblin. It was sitting in a chair with a book in its hand. A light steam drifted from the teacup on the table in front of it, and with it, a delicate aroma. The goblin peered at us curiously over its spectacles. There was something different about this one. I could tell as much at a glance. Heavens! How rare it is to have guests! Heavens! How well spoken for a goblin. I could only feel dread and suspicion at the sight of him nonetheless. Sorry, mate, but we're not your guests. Cough the key up. Cough up the key to the dungeon if you want to live. Kid slammed her knife into the table to illustrate her point. The goblin didn't so much as flinch. Ah, you must be Kid. What a pleasure this is. I've always so wanted to meet you. Why, you're even more ravishing than the rumors went before the goblin could finish. Kid's knife flew through the air. With a quick flick of his wrist, the goblin caught the blade with the back of his book, a mere inch from his face. I see that your approach is as radical as the name of your merry band would suggest. the goblin said, pulling the knife free and handing it back to Kid. She took it without a word. But her gaze had changed. She was like a cat, cautiously studying its prey. And I was just getting to the good part, too. Ah, well, I suppose I shall have to give up on ever finishing it now. The goblin casually flung the book over his shoulder and into a nearby bin. Allow me to introduce myself, if I may. I am Grismeld, and I am the guard on watch. No need to stand, please. Do take a seat. You're welcome to tea, of course. The goblin beckoned for us to sit down. Did he mean to poison us? If I may. Majil calmly took a seat, ignoring the obvious suspicion in the air. Sit down next to Majil. He had some kind of plan in mind, I was sure of it. Kid didn't look like she'd be pulling up a chair anytime soon. She was standing with her arms crossed, eyeing the goblin suspiciously. The goblin poured 3 cups of tea. Here you are. Without the slightest hint of hesitation, Majil took his teacup and lifted it to his lips. He sipped, then placed the cup back on its saucer. Heal my ailin tea. Heal my ailin tea. Not a blend I expected to find here. What a pleasure it is to encounter a fellow connoisseur. Yes, it's a rare blend, and one mainly enjoyed by the noble classes. I couldn't believe the conversation I was hearing, but I also couldn't help wondering what this rare tea might taste like. My eyes rested on the cup that had been poured for me. I couldn't shake the fear that it might be poisoned, but I also couldn't ignore how delicious it smelled. Before I knew it, the cup was in my hands. This is great, I blurted out. I'd never had such a delicious brew in my entire life. My aches and pains faded away. I glanced over at Kid, who was blowing maniacally at the liquid in her cup. Manically. I'd forgotten that she was paranoid about burning her mouth on things. Now that we're comfortable, let's get down to brass tacks, as they say. I do indeed have the key to the dungeon, as you surmised, but you will also be aware that I cannot simply give it away. I glanced over to Kid again. Typical. She wasn't listening to a word Grismeld was saying. She was huffing and puffing at her tea. It seemed to be up to me to respond. I suppose that means you want something in return. You'd like to know what I want? I want your heads. Grismeld's eyes glistened behind his spectacles. I pulled out my knife. No, I don't think I managed to say that. Or rather, I'm sure that's what my employer would have me say. But no, I have no such barbarous aspirations. Furthermore, I doubt I'd be a match for you. Grismeld chuckled as he said this. What I live for is the joy of conversation, which I fear my compatriots are ill-equipped to supply. Perhaps you might have 1 or 2 ripping yarns to share? Grinning, he added, I'm sure notorious thieves such as yourselves must have more than a few thrilling tales up your sleeves. So he wanted a story. That seemed a more than fair price to pay for the key. I closed my eyes and thought, aha, I know just the story. How did it begin? One night, a young girl was walking alone in the forest. And then she was searching for a golden sunflower, the only way to cure her mother's illness. Then the poor girl went without food for 3 days and 3 nights. There was only way the story could end. I took a breath and began my tale. One night, a young girl was walking alone in the forest. She was searching for a golden sunflower, the only way to cure her mother's illness. The poor girl went without food for 3 days and 3 nights, and then in the moment of darkest despair, she saw a brilliant light. It was none other than the golden sunflower she sought. The young girl gratefully pocketed the sunflower's seeds. These will surely save my mother, she thought, but it was all a dream. With a smile on her face, the girl drifted off and dreamed forevermore. That was beautiful, murmured Kid, wiping a tear from her eye. Grismeld frowned. Not quite what I was expecting, and not the most riveting of tales, but I suppose it will do. The key, as promised. I took it from Grismeld's hand. Something didn't seem right, though. Was he really going to give up so easily? And was it really alright to trust such a strange goblin? Grismeld seemed to notice my suspicion. He leaned back into his chair, looking at the ceiling. When I was a young tyro, braver, stupider goblin, I once served under General Viper, who was the lord of this manor until his betrayal by Lord Lynx. Despite my boorishness, Lady Riddell always saw something in me worthy of praise. Wait, Riddell? What's Lynx's adopted daughter got to do with anything? Oh, you didn't know? Riddell's real father was none other than General Viper himself. What? Lord Lynx spared Lady Riddell's life so as not to snuff out that of the frozen flame. It's an uncanny stone, you see, has a life of its own, and some kind of spiritual bond with Lady Riddell. If only there was some way I could free milady from this manor. Alas, I alone am powerless to do any such thing. Of course, I would have no qualms if, say, you were to topple the usurper. I assume you intend to? Slay the old beast, I mean? It was a strange inquiry to make so casually. Well, if it comes to it. I was a little more than taken aback by the directness of Grismel's question. I'd never expected to find one of Lynx's own guards asking me something like that. Suddenly I was shoved aside. Not if it comes to it. We're going to kill him tonight. And kill him good. It was Kid, of course. And, in exchange, I'll have some more of that tea to take with us. Kid held out her hand before Grismel could offer an answer. I suppose I have a bag I could share. Grismel shuffled awkwardly in his seat as he retrieved it. As ever, I was impressed at how Kid's uncompromising attitude and willingness to speak her mind seemed to always get her what she wanted. Bonza! Sit tight and leave the rest to us, mate. Stowing the bag in her pocket, Kid took the job. You can trust me. I'm a girl of my word. That might have been the biggest lie she'd ever told. Right, let's get moving. She made for the door with a spring in her step. We left the room and Grismel behind. Boom, 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 boom. Staircase going up. Straight towards the cell. Right, the key we got from that creepy old goblin should do the trick. Kid slipped the key into the lock. The heavy door groaned slightly as it swung open. Clammy air rose up around our feet, as if crawling blindly through the darkness. This didn't seem like the kind of place anyone in their right mind would visit voluntarily. Almost like it was a dungeon or something. We pushed the heavy iron door the rest of the way open and stepped into the darkness. There was a row of cells, all locked behind iron bars. 1, 2... Oh, Gulliver, Melgid, Zoranda, forgive me, please. Please, forgive me. We heard a voice from the third cell, whimpering and crying pathetically. I strained my eyes to look inside. Faintly, in the darkness, I could see something like a man sitting on the floor. So this was the source of the voice. There's quite a bit of game left, it looks like. So I think after this convo, we're going to call the stream because we're going a bit over my scheduled time. Oi, you alright, mate? Kid called out to the figure. I'm going to save here, though. In case things go badly. Forgive me. It's my fault. It's my fault. The Dragoons never deserved this. General, Lady Riddell, oh, forgive me, I beg you. The old man didn't seem to respond to us at all. He only sat facing the wall, begging forgiveness for who knows what. Hello? Can you hear me? I just want to make sure I'm not misreading this. Let's see, how much more is it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4 more story beats. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna take a quick little break so I can rest my voice for 5 to 10 minutes. And then I do want to do this all in one stream because I don't think there's enough here to justify a second stream. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be right back in about 5 to 10 minutes. See you soon. Oh, we're back. Hello? Can you hear me? Asked Kid, trying again. There'll be no getting through to him. His real self will have been cut off will have long since retreated inside the shell he has created, said Majil, cutting her off. Shell? What do you mean? I asked. He has built a shell around the core of his psyche in order to shield himself from the truth. He is running from something. Something terrible. He has seen something or been through something or has done something. And so he has created his own world on the inside as a final refuge, the outside world lost to him forevermore. I looked at Majil in surprise. I had detected a hint of unspoken sadness in his words. And for some reason, he was looking at Kid, watching over her as she stared at the man in the cell. Seeming to notice my gaze, Majil turned back to face me, assuming his usual emotionless expression once more. We live in a world of sorrow and foolishness. It's only inevitable that someone would try to escape it. But despite his hard words, his eyes retained a certain softness, his steely gaze giving way to a gentle light. Do you understand? Can you be a bit more specific? Of course. You have seen the rapt state Kid enters before stealing something, I take it? Oh, I'd seen it all right. An image of Kid, hands clutched in front of her heart, twirling stars for pupils, floated immediately into my mind. The item in question may not be hers yet, but in her mind, she has already taken possession of it, become possessed by it, even. In other words, she has been transported to a place completely outside herself. The man you see before you has been transported to a similar place, albeit a much darker one. It made total sense to me now. I can still find it amazing how an example from close to home can explain things so clearly. Mag, you're treading on some very thin ice here. Was he? I mean, he had a point. My musings were cut short by her fist crashing into the side of my head. Don't you ever think about agreeing with him, Sedge? I could get on her bad side without even opening my mouth. It was almost impressive. Yeah, we're not going to get much out of him. He's miles away. Let's just leave him be and try someplace else. Kid made for the door of the dungeon. Wait, called Majil. We must find some way to get this man to speak. What for? I mean, he's speaking already, just none of it makes sense. What are you after? Some things he said piqued my curiosity. He mentioned the dragoons, and Riddell, too. So? You said the dragoons are ancient history, snapped Kid. Besides, how can we trust anything he says? He's clearly gone off his rocker. She had a point. The old man had long since cut his ties to the real world. What did Majil expect him to say? Without missing a beat, Majil replied, We simply have to bring him back to reality. And how are we going to do that? You want me to do a little dance for him? See if that gets his motor going? See if this is gonna... I'm not gonna say no. I know if I said anything, I'd get nothing but an earful of a lifetime. The earful of a lifetime in return. So I clamped my hands over my mouth to save myself. What are you playing at, Sedge? Kid seemed unimpressed. That was a close one. I don't think that would work, Majil said dryly. Kid's fist flew straight towards his face. But Majil shifted his weight effortlessly, avoiding the attack, and continued. We must break through the shell he has created and drag him back to the real world. And in order to do that, we need to find some kind of key, something that will reach him even through the barrier he has erected. Yeah? And where are we going to find this key? Asked Kid suspiciously. I don't know, came Majil's simple reply. But there is someone in this manor who can tell us. You don't mean... You're not talking about Riddell, are you? I am, Majil replied with a nod. All right, fine. Don't know what the heck you expect her to tell us, though. Kid turned on her heel and made for the door. We left the gibbering old man in the dungeon, alone with his sorrow. I followed Kid and Majil out into the corridor. Towards the atrium. Continue along the path ahead. Hey there, how's it going, Riddell? Are you in your room now, Riddell? Is someone there? Came the voice of a young woman. We shrank into the shadows. The woman appeared from deeper within the room. She was lightly made up and had a gentle, unthreatening air about her. It was Lynx's daughter. Strange. I'm sure I heard someone. I was at a loss for what to do at the moment. But before I'd had time to do much more than hold my breath, Kid had already darted over and thrust her knife out, stopping the blade only a hair's breadth from the woman's neck. Where's the frozen flame? Answer me! Her voice came out in a harsh growl. I rushed to hold Kid back before she hurt the poor woman. Kid, do we really have to do it this way? Shut your trap, Serge! Riddell couldn't help but giggle as she watched us bickering. What are you laughing at? Kid shot Riddell a harsh look. It's just, you don't seem like thieves at all. You little... Do you want me to cut you, girl? I'd be surprised if that knife could cut anything. For a moment, I felt faint, imagining Riddell on the floor, covered in blood. But then, clang! Kid had thrown her knife to the floor, and I saw that was only a letter opener. Heh, didn't think you noticed. Whatever. I'm not here to mess around with killing the likes of you anyway. I have no desire for bloodshed either, said Riddell, in a voice that was almost a whisper. I am not your enemy. In fact, I want to help you. There wasn't a hint of hesitation or deception in her voice. Let me guess. You're trapped in the manor too? Riddell only lowered her eyes sadly in response to Kid's question. The frozen flame should never have been allowed to fall into Lynx's hands. Riddell spoke quietly, but deep emotion clearly underpinned her words. The flame was once the property of an ancient kingdom to the north, who kept it for generations. It was said to have the uncanny power to guide people and change history itself. After the kingdom fell, the flame changed hands countless times, until eventually it came into my father's possession. That was before I was born. Sometime later, Lynx became aware of the flame's true value and approached my father under false pretenses of friendship. Not a soul suspected what his true intentions were. And then on that horrible day, he destroyed everything. He killed everything. Riddell shook her head, then buried her face in her hands. I don't care about the frozen flame. I don't care about that stupid accursed stone. It means nothing to me. I just want to take it away from Lynx and smash it to pieces right in front of him. And only we can make that happen. Riddell looked up with surprise as Majil spoke. No one else in the world can seize that jewel from Lynx. Riddell stared, speechlessly. And then, in a low voice, she whispered, What can I do to help you? There's a survivor of the Acacia Dragoons in the dungeon who we want to help. And if we are to help him, we need your help, said Majil, taking a step forward. What? That man is a traitor. It's because of him that Zoranda... Please. It's the only way. Riddell turned her back to us. Hung her head low. The Chamber of Death. There might be something to bring him to his senses there. After all, it was there that he chose to abandon his pride, his life. I assume the Chamber of Death must be the cell with the trapped ceiling. Riddell nodded. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem, started Kid. That thing damn near killed us last time. You'll need to take the Iron Lancer with you. It is a sacred sword said to have been forged by an ancient sage, and a sister blade to the crimson cursed Masamune. The timeless blessing of the Einlancer will surely keep you safe from the chamber of death's wickedness. It used to be such a sight to see it in the hands of Zoranda. It danced like the wind, shone like the stars, and struck like lightning. Lost again in memories of fonder times, Riddell once more bowed her head. Forgive me. I have little more to tell you. You've told us more than enough. We'll take our leave now, said Majil, turning and making for the door. I wish I had the strength to change things like you do, whispered Riddell, biting her lip. Kid hesitated for a moment, seemingly deep in thought. It ain't about strength. It's about having a purpose. Something to fight for. I will be praying for you. Kid shot Riddell a look over her shoulder. Great, maybe you can cross your fingers too. We left the room. Passage outside the room continued to the left. And also to the right, but we don't care about that. We go up. Terrace. Save the clock tower. Speaking of save. Look, I don't care what we might find in there, even if it could lead straight to the frozen flame. I ain't going in until we find a way to deal with that trap. Majil, meanwhile, was lost in thought. Riddell mentioned an ancient blade, the Einlancer. Without it, I doubt we will find a way to progress. Well, if that means we're taking our search somewhere else, I'm happy to oblige. Right, I have no idea where to look for the Einlancer. I am going to look up the guide. Let's visit the clock tower. The room was completely silent. There it is, our ticket to not getting turned into mincemeat. The ancient sword was right where Kid had left it. Oh yeah, now I remember the big sword. She ran over to where it lay. Looking down at the sword, Majil muttered, 2 ancient blades. The sacred Einlancer and the cursed Masamune. What are you on about, Mag? You know something about this Masamune? Majil said nothing. Well, it seems to mean something to you. It does. Uh-huh. Something to do with old friends I don't know about? Not exactly. An enemy, then? Not exactly. You're being weird, Mag. Well, whatever. Oi, numbnuts. Grab this thing for me, will ya? I was still standing by the doorway when Kid called over to me. Who, me? Yeah, you. Are you gonna make me lug the bloody thing? I'm just a scrawny little girl, ain't I? Call yourself a gentleman? I knew there wasn't anything I could say to her. Silently, I walked over to Kid and picked up the sword like I was told. Whoa! I nearly fell over. That thing was heavy. Good boy. Right, off to the chamber of death. Eyes on the prize, lads. Dragging the sword behind me, I followed Kid out of the room. To the right, to the right. Continue on, continue on. Oh, this place is just as creepy as I remember. Lovely, grumbled Kid. She was looking at the stains on the wall. The ceiling had been pulled back up, but that was no reason to believe it might not come grinding down again at any moment. Bearing in mind what Riddell had told us the room was called, it definitely wasn't someplace I wanted to linger. Quickly, hissed Majil, before crouching down and examining the ground for clues. We crouched down too. What were we even looking for, though? What could the old man have left in this room that would help us bring him back to reality? Flagstones on the floor were smeared with black gooey substance. Door slammed shut. Here we bloody go again. We have to stop it. If we don't deal with the trap, we'll never find what we're looking for. Ceiling sink lower and lower. Sword, use the iron lantern. Wow. Drive it into the floor? A shock ran through the room. Beams of light scattered from the blade, covering the floor and walls, then racing upward. The ceiling gave an almighty judder, then stopped. We made it. I sank to the floor helplessly, my heart racing. Hey, what's that? Kid was pointing at part of the wall. It was where we'd seen the message written in blood. Guess we found what we were looking for. Part of the wall had collapsed, revealing a cavity behind what had looked like a piece of solid stone. Inside, I could see something glinting faintly in the darkness. Kid reached in with her fingertips, carefully extracting whatever it was from within. It was a slender ring with a delicately engraved design that looked like overlapping ferns. The ring was adorned with several small rubies and a pattern that resembled a bunch of grapes. The crest of Acacia. This must be an Acacian signet. Kid put the ring on her middle finger where it sat uneasily. It didn't seem to be her size. The rubies gave off an eerie glint. Right, let's not spend any more time in here than we have to. We'd managed to foil the trap and retrieve the Acacian signet. I left the iron lantern where it stood, and we exited the room. With Kid in the lead, we headed downstairs. We went down the stairs and continued straight ahead. Continue. There's something there. Rattle, rattle, rattle. The figure approached. It's a skeleton! I attacked. Ugh. I eep. Wait, is it doing what I think it is? The skeleton is flirting with me. Majil has been transfixed. With its skull shattered, the skeleton immediately came to a halt. Huh, guess you can't fight after all. We defeated the skeleton. Majil, are we going to talk about your bone boner? Can't believe this Drongo, though. Thwack. She brought her fist down hard on his head. Maybe that'll wake you up. Now, if we're done here, let's get a bloody move on. What was I? Oh, ow. Wait a second. What's that? A leather bag? A sparkling gem. Not bad, Serge. Not bad at all. Didn't know you had it in you. Continue. We want to go down the stairs back to the prisoner. Towards the dungeon. Having retrieved the acacia signet, we returned to the old man's cell. As soon as we got there, Majil took a step forward and grabbed onto the bars. They creaked and groaned, and as he heaved at them, gritting his teeth as he summoned every ounce of his might. Slowly they bowed apart. He stepped into the cell through the gap, and Kid and I followed. The old man was exactly where we had left him, staring into space and muttering meaningless words. Kid walked over to him and crouched down. She grabbed him by the collar and yelled at him, "Wakey, wakey, Granddad! We've got a few questions for ya. Here, get an eyeful of this. Ring any bells, Kid waved the acacia signet in his face, shaking him roughly all the while. The old man's head lolled as he allowed himself to be manhandled. I'm gonna step in. She glared at me. You're on the way, Serge. We're here for answers, remember? But if you really want to help him, you can't chicken out now. But look at him. There's no helping him anymore, surely. This all ended for him long ago. I would not be so certain. This is not over. It still means something. He simply has decided to pretend to not see it. Yeah, but it's not over, you say? Suddenly, by the man's sudden interruption. Struck by the man's sudden interruption, we all turned to look at him. A faint glimmer of light has returned to his once vacant eyes. That's right. None of this is over until we make Lynx pay. His eyes began to cloud once more. So my former allies have finally come for me. I am to blame. It is because of my indiscretion that the frozen flame was stolen, and that all of the Acacian dragoons, of all of them, only I remain here in the manor. But now all is well, for you have returned. Oh, Melchid, Zoranda, where have you been all this time? Did you all return to Lake Stoic? Never mind all that, Granddad. Where's the frozen flame? Give us a clue, anything. Come on, out with it. I couldn't decide if Kid sounded more annoyed or desperate. The frozen flame? The old man looked momentarily confused, and then a wan smile crossed his face. My word, Lady Riddell. It has been far too long since I last had the pleasure. Why, you only need to turn the third candlestick from the left as you enter the main hall. That will open the underground vault, as you know. Kid wrapped her arms around the old man and held him tight. And then, in a trembling voice, she whispered, I'm sorry. I promise we'll get it back. The man recoiled in horror and then began to sob once more. I am to blame. It's all my fault. Forgive me. Forgive me. Look, if you want to get out of here, now's your chance. But it was no use. He was too busy cowering and wailing to hear me. We're done here, Sedge. We can't help him, and there's things we need to be doing. Thank you, I whispered to the old man before following Kid and Majil out of the dungeon. Goblin guards. Hey, it's me, Goblin Guard. Let me get that mace. She liked that I did that. She liked that I did a good job. Continue on, go up the stairs, go to the hall, not the study. That's my song. Main hall. Suddenly, the darkness felt opaque, something like a thick haze floating in the air in front of us, and then it took form like someone blowing smoke into a person-shaped bottle. It was robed in a ragged shroud, and its sunken eyes glinted menacingly. It was the burning hatred that lingers even after death given form, a being driven by hatred for all living things. Ghost. Bugger, that's us out. Kid bit her lip. There wasn't anything that she or I could do to deal with an enemy that had no physical body. A voice boomed out behind me. Bajil had begun casting a spell. I jumped behind Bajil. Let's try and slip past the ghost. The ghost swelled inside, attempting to trap us within its spectral embrace and drain our life force. I could feel an incredible cold at the tips of my toes. I'd barely touched the ghost, but I could feel that a huge amount of energy had been drained from me in just that brief moment. There was no time to dwell on this brush with death. Having spotted an opening between the ghost and the wall, we quickly slipped through it and were away. We just decided to hang out with that ghost for fun. Looks like the coast is clear. And we're clear of the ghost. Third candlestick from the left, whispered Kid. 1, 2, 3. There. She reached out towards it. I held my breath as I watched. Say your prayers, Lynx. We're coming for you. Kid turned the candlestick. The room trembled with a sudden rhythmic rumbling sound, as if a massive gear was turning. What's that? For a moment I felt a strange sensation as if I was floating. Do you feel that? I started to stagger. The entire room seemed to be moving downward, came the reply from Majil. I couldn't quite believe it, but I also couldn't deny the feeling of downward motion. The main hall was sinking into the earth. And then another rumble. The room's descent rapidly accelerated. A cold sweat dripped from my back. My heart was filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. What was waiting for us down there? Frozen flame? A prize at the end of this little adventure. But what was it really? Would it live up to our expectations? I tightened my fists, which were slick with sweat. What were Kid and Majil thinking? The room remained veiled in silence. As if in response to my thoughts, a quiet voice came from next to me. Sometimes It was Kid. I looked over to see her standing stiffly, staring forward with her hands clenched into fists. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a losing battle. A fight I'll never win no matter what I do. It was a side of her I'd never witnessed before. Even from this angle, I could see fear and doubt flickering across her face. I felt a tender sting in my heart. We'll win, I promise. There's nothing to worry about. We'll win in the end. I promise. Heh, Drongo. She gave a gentle smile. Can't promise anything in this world, Serge. There are no guarantees. But thanks anyway. She grinned again, seeming a little embarrassed, then looked me straight in the eye. And then I had the strangest sensation. This wasn't Kid. Or not the only Kid, anyway. I was overwhelmed by the inexplicable oddness of the idea. She noticed immediately, of course, and our little moment was over. The Kid I knew was back in the room. Trying to catch flies, mate? Sorry, it's just that for a moment there... It felt like you were someone else. What are you on about? Kid gave me a confused look, tilting her head. It must be because we were drawing near to the frozen flame. Majil's voice, as soft as ever, slipped unbidden from the shadows. Eh? What the heck are you two on about? Kid turned towards him with another puzzled frown. There is another self within you, struggling against the pull of the abyss. But what had she been talking about? A crash split the silence, as if we'd collided with something. Skirt! A loud metallic scraping filled the air. The room rocked, and finally came to a halt. Looks like the end of the line. All change. The swelling grandeur of the organ suddenly filled the air. No one had so much as touched it, and yet the keys and pedals were moving all by themselves. The melody it played was both unsettling and sad. Funeral tune, isn't? What a way to greet your guests. Kid took a long stride forward, then turned to face me and Majil. Come on, let's go. Majil and I gently nodded our assent. Kid grinned and then turned back to the door. I'm coming for you, Lynx. This is the end for you. And with that, she led us from the hall. We continued down a long, dark corridor, the walls slick with condensation. The air was thick and heavy, as though ripe with the stench of death. Were we really getting close to Lynx's hidden vault at last? And was there any turning back now? For any of us? There was something strange about Kid that night. Majil didn't seem to be his usual self either. To begin with, it was vanishingly rare for him to speak so much, let alone to show any emotion. What had happened to make them change like that? Unable to take the silence anymore, I decided to speak. I had to ask the question that had been on my mind all this time. Why do you want the frozen flame so badly? All I got in reply was the cold echo of her footfalls. I should have known. She didn't like to talk about her reasons for doing things. After all, it was a topic of discussion that was likely to lead to her past. But then she spoke, though it was almost a whisper. I'm doing it for Sis. Before she died, she told me to find the frozen flame and bury it. Bury it where? Her old mate's grave. The kid looked at her feet as she walked. She wasn't me real sister, but she was as good as family to me. When she took me in, I was bloody helpless. Couldn't remember a thing, and I was barely old enough to survive on my own. She didn't go into too much detail about who her mate was. Best I can remember is that I needed to find the grave of a girl who married another mate of hers and died not long after. She said that's where the frozen flame should be laid to rest, or something like that. To be honest, I wasn't paying much attention about it at the time. It's not like I could have known what was about to happen. When she disappeared and I realized she wasn't coming back, though, I swore I'd make good on what she asked me to do. I'd nab the frozen flame from that rat bastard Lynx and get my revenge. Kid's eyes almost seemed to glow with the heat in the cold night air. I'd make him pay for everything he's done, no matter what it takes, even if it kills me. And then she fell silent. Sorry, Kid, I didn't mean to bring up something so painful. There was a pause before she replied. Nah, you're alright. I should have said something sooner, before I roped you into this. Sorry. Silence reigned supreme as I fumbled around and tried to find something to say in reply. But all that filled the darkness of the corridor was the sound of yet more footsteps. Suddenly, Majil stopped in his tracks. Wait! Huh? Kid turned around, puzzled. Just then a powerful light surged across the floor, and a ring-shaped sigil appeared. Damn it! A blood circle. Kid and Majil were at least quick enough to try and jump clear, but they weren't quite quick enough. The three of us were trapped in a circle of blinding light. The sigil rotated left and right with us at the center, cutting off all routes of escape. Yeah, we're trapped. The wall of heat and wind blew up around us, and swirling lines and spirals of light assailed us wherever we turned. This seems like a swirling snare. Don't let the light mesmerize you. Cover your eyes, shouted Majil, raising a hand over his mask. Turn with the light, not against it. There has to be a way out. What? I barely understand what's going on. Kid's elbow brushed against the wall of light surrounding us, sending sparks flying. Be careful. Merely to touch it is enough, more than enough to harm you. Stay well back. I slowly turned my body to follow the movements of the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. Right, thrice. 3 steps to the right. There, I see it. That's our way through. Found a gap in the wall of light and carefully walked through it. Kid, my shield, this way. We managed to get through the barrier unscathed, but we weren't out of the woods yet. There was still another wall of light swirling with a great wind in front of us. I slowly turned my body to the left twice. There, I see it. That's our way through. Kid, my shield, this way. Right, twice. There, I see it. Suddenly, my body felt light, and I staggered 2 or 3 steps forward. We were back in the deserted passageway where we'd been walking down before the blood circle had appeared. The sigil had vanished from the floor, and everything was silent, as if nothing had ever been amiss. And then I looked up. A door! It looks like we finally made it, boys. Kid strolled up to the door with a wicked grin on her face. The true frozen flame awaits. Magil's eyes gave a glint from behind his mask, like glass catching moonlight in the darkness of night. Let's go. Kid reached for the handle. So this is the place, huh? Kid now narrowed her eyes, straining to see surroundings in the darkness. A vast, pitch-black expanse surrounded us, whichever way we looked. It was as if we'd entered an impossibly vast cave. We were in a place forgotten by time, unknown to the world, hidden deep within the bowels of night. A gentle crimson light hovered in the darkness. The frozen flame! All right, now it's ours! The light of the flame ebbed and waned gently, as if responding to Kid's voice. What the heck is this place? There's mountains of bloody rubble everywhere. Magil took a step forward, further into the room, and said in a whisper that was almost a groan, No, it can't be. Ah, but it is. The ruins of the lost kingdom of mages. The voice drifted down through the darkness from above. Kid looked up in shock. Lynx! I'll kick your flea-bitten ass so hard you'll kiss the moon! Singular. Kid pulled her knife from her belt and threw it as hard as she could. It fell to the floor with a clang, as if knocked out of the air by some unseen hand. Still the same impetuous child as ever, I see. That's no way to greet an old friend. Smarmy bastard! Kid gritted her teeth with rage. And you, Shadow Dweller, I'll have none of your tricks this time. You must think me a fool if you believe I'll fall for that again. Magil, who had been quietly slipping into the darkness that surrounded us, stopped dead in his tracks. So this was the infamous Lynx. Oh, what a look! The lord of this deadly manor, the man who had murdered the closest thing Kid had to family, who had assassinated General Viper and eradicated the order of the Acacia Dragoons. A pleasure as always, my dear Kid. And I must say, you followed the trail of breadcrumbs I laid for you admirably closely, my greedy little sneak thief. What the bloody... She stepped forward, bristling. Lynx narrowed his eyes as his lips twisted into a snarl. You know what I want, Kid. Give me the stone you carry. The stone? Does Kid have some kind of jewel I didn't know about? Don't know what you're on about, mate. She just about managed to recover her composure, narrowing her eyes scornfully at her foe. Spare me the act, child. I know that you have it. I know she gave it to you. Hand over the time egg. Now. What? Whatever it was, I'd never heard of it. You're dreaming if I think I'd give that to the likes of you, Kid shot back. It's all I have left of her. I'll never let go of it. Not for anyone. And definitely not for you. I'll tell you what's going to happen, you bastard. First, I'm going to take that frozen flame, and then I'm going to ram it down your throat. Incorrigible young fool. I was hoping this might be a civilized exchange. Alas, It seems my words will only fall on deaf ears, and you are determined to repeat your past errors. Lynx moved his hand to the grip of his ornate golden saber that hung from his belt. Last time, I showed you mercy and let you leave with your life. That was a mistake. One which I mean to correct. Serge, Magiel, stay back. Kid took a step forward, glaring at Lynx, her gaze unflinching. This ends here and now. You'll pay for what you've done. You'll pay for what you did to Luca. With a scream, Kid leapt into the air like a bird taking flight. Her foot lashed out in a scything kick, aimed right at the side of Lynx's head. But there was no contact. Where Lynx had been mere moments ago, there was now only empty space. Kid landed and immediately launched herself back into the air, putting the full force of her momentum into another kick. This time, Lynx leaned back, letting Kid's foot swing past only a hair's breadth from his nose. Very precise, only getting a hair's breadth away so many times. And then it was Lynx's turn. He lashed out with his saber, carving an arc through the air in front of him. Kid was ready for him, though, and had already jumped back to a safe distance. The two glared at each other from mere footsteps apart. At least you had the decency to prepare a little better than last time, Lynx purred. A red line appeared on Kid's cheek, slowly coalescing into a drop of blood. Kid! In a flash, she launched herself into yet another attack. Lynx dodged to the side, then made to strike her with the hilt of his saber. Kid moved awkwardly to avoid the attack, losing her footing, and then Lynx was on her like a bird of prey before she could fully recover. There was a gasp and a cough as Lynx drove his knee into the pit of her stomach. Kid collapsed. A steady stream of red dripped from her lips. Will that be all, girl? Lynx gave Kid a merciless kick to the side, sending her flying. She landed on a pile of rubble, her body rolling until she hit the large stone pillar. And there she lay, lifelessly still. Kid? Kid! I screamed her name as I charged towards Lynx, but Magiel was there already. He flew through the darkness, a part of the shadows, before crashing down on Lynx like a bolt from the blue. Lynx jumped back, and countless threads of light flew from his fingertips towards Magiel. With a droning hum, the threads of light surrounded Magiel, crossing one over another. They spread to form a lattice of light that gave off a blinding glare and trapped Magiel where he stood. What is this? Magiel staggered and groaned, attempting to shield his eyes with his hands. It's a simple enough spell, my shadowy friend, for those inclined to learn it, and one which, sadly for you, leaves no darkness in which to hide. Lynx leered at Magiel with a venomous grin. You've been quite the thorn in my side. I'll let you live long enough to regret it. Magiel struggled and groaned. I had to do something. Kid and Magiel needed me, but what was I going to do? I ran to Kid. Kid! I ran over to where she lay. She was flat out, still collapsed where she had fallen, and blood still ran from her mouth. Kid! Kid! Say something! I crouched down next to her, glancing at her face in a panic. She groaned, and then she began to stir, her face twisted with pain. Serge. It's okay, Kid. I'm here. How touching. Although I'd be more concerned about my own well-being if I were you. The voice came from behind me. It felt as if ice water had been pouring down my neck. I jumped to my feet and turned around. Lynx was looking down at me with a cold, emotionless stare. Any friend of Kid's is certainly no friend of mine. Forgive me, but I cannot permit you to leave this place alive. Before I realized it, his hand had shot out toward me. His claw-like fingers clamped around my throat. I couldn't breathe. Tightening his grip, Lynx lifted me bodily until my feet were dangling in the air. I could feel his talons mercilessly digging deeper and deeper into my neck. Panic filled my mind. Look, Kid. See your friend. See him suffer. This is your doing. This is your hand around his neck. I'm genuinely not sure about the timeline, where this fits. I'm pretty sure this is an alternate reality beyond the two in Chrono Cross. So, let alone the timeline. I don't know where dimensionally this game fits. Kid's breathing was ragged, and blood still dripped from her lips. Opening an eye, she groggily raised her head. But she couldn't get up. She didn't have the strength. Surge! Give me the time egg. Do you even know what it is? I suspect not. Think of it as a concentrated pocket of space. With a frozen flame and time egg in hand, one can bend the fabric of space and time, and rewrite the past. There are errors that I mean to correct. Mistakes in the past that must be set right. Lynx's narrow, emotionless eyes returned to my face. How long before he perishes, I wonder? I struggled to breathe, but could only make choking sounds. Kid screamed my name. Decide. Will you watch the boy die or relent? Does his life mean nothing to you? I can't. She balled her hands into fists and dropped her gaze. My vision started to fade. And then I heard her voice, as she struggled to speak through the pain. I'm sorry, Sedge, but I swore I'd sacrifice anything to stop Lynx. Don't worry about me. It was all I could do to force the words out past Lynx's icy grip. I was starting to black out. Was this really how it was going to end? For crying out loud. Fine, you win. Here, have the damn rock. Lynx's grip on my throat loosened. Groaning with pain, Kid reached his shaky hand into her shirt. I knew you would come around in the end. Lynx threw my body to the ground, then walked over to her. Just shut up and take it, you bastard. It's all you deserve. With all the strength she could muster, Kid lashed out at Lynx with her right hand. Nyah! He leapt back in a desperate attempt to evade the blow, but it was too late. Kid's nails, sharp as cat's claws, raked mercilessly across his face. Lynx roared with pain. He staggered, clutching his left eye. Blood oozed through the gaps in his fingers. You wretched little girl! I'm not sure if that's an okay thing to say, so I'm just gonna skip over it. Lynx stood awkwardly, still clutching at the wound on his face. The fingers on his free hand arched into furious talons as he walked back toward Kid, who still lay on the ground. I will kill you all! He kicked her hard, concentrating all his wrath and venom into the blow. Kid gasped as all the wind was knocked out of her, yet more blood ran from her mouth as her body rolled across the floor. Kid! I yelled hoarsely, clutching my burning throat with one hand. Lynx turned his head to look at me, one eye fixing on me coldly as it came into view. He took a step toward me. Yes, perhaps it would be better to start with you. My dear Kid, rest assured that your friend's death will be a most elaborate and painful one. You will truly know what it means to suffer, boy. I will put you through the same suffering as I did that Luca woman. Kid's body stirred with shock and horror. Her eyes slowly opened, fixing on Lynx. They were wild eyes, stained with the blood that poured from her brow. Gritting her teeth, she staggered to her feet. Lynx! Lynx! And then an explosion of light burst forth from the frozen flame. Another light began to form from somewhere near Kid's chest, resonating with the light of the frozen flame. The twin lights entwined, twirling slowly upward. And as it rose, the golden spiral spread. No, this can't be! Lynx stood motionless, transfixed by the spectacle. Was this the Timex power? Kid screamed as a raging blaze of light engulfed her. I'll never let you do it again. I'll never let you steal from me again. Bathed in the glow, her body shook. Blood-red tears dripped from her eyes as they took on a distant look. And then she collapsed to the ground as if all the life had gone out of her. I heard a voice. It was quiet and still like the evening. It has come to pass. Kid is retracing her lost memories through time, back to the Lost Kingdom. It was through her power that this kingdom fell, that it was swallowed in the all-encompassing vortex of time. In her grief, she wished to disappear. Her past, her future, she wanted it all to sink into the void, to be lost in the seething whirl of time. She despised what she had done. She closed herself off from all that she saw and heard, and cursed her very existence. But the stone wished for her to live. The hands of her clock were rewound, her memories unraveled. The stone gave her a chance to begin again. The stone had both the power and the will to bring all this about. Sinking through the sea of time, she drifted here, a mere babe, her memories a blank slate. The time egg shattered, its fragments raining down on the world, becoming shards of shadow, sorrow, and anguish. The world around us drifted into pieces. It swallowed us, engulfed us. We were consumed, locked into the void. And then a girl's scream echoed in the darkness. That voice. Was that Kid? It sounded just like... No, this is all wrong. The black vortex, it surrounds us. No, stop! Where am I? There's a dinosaur. I have lost everything, and now I can but wander. The world drifts, and time is a blur. There is only an endless, unknowable sea. This is where time begins and ends. This is where all life finds peace. I see myself as a baby, crying next to my mother, an exhausted yet proud look upon her face. I see myself aged and wizened, waiting to succumb to death's embrace with a smile. I see countless incarnations of myself, walking time's intricate corridors as ghosts. This is a place where countless worlds overlap and infinite dreams play out. If only I could rest here for eternity. If only I could free myself of all my burdens and sleep here in the sea of dreams. But I hear it calling me. I hear the song. Kid, please. Can you hear me? Kid, say something. Kid, you've got to stay with me. Who's that? Who's calling me? Serge? Where am I? Kid? Kid, you're awake. I heard a song. It was beautiful. It was that song that Luca loved. Kid closed her eyes and her face glowed warm, with a warm smile. I'll never forget that song. Makes me want to cry whenever I hear it. I'm just glad you're back. It felt like I was losing you. Like you were going somewhere far, far away. Before I knew it, I was humming the song for you. I don't know if I ever mentioned it, but I wrote it when I first started out as a musician. I knew you liked it, so Kate gave a gentle nod. It was you. You were the one that called me back. That was you calling my name. Thanks, Serge. It's okay. It's okay now. I'm back. Suddenly she gasped with pain. Lynx's saber had plunged deep into her right shoulder. And towering over us was Lynx himself. I told you, kid. I told you I would kill you. She had no strength left to fight. What was I going to do? Protect Kid. I had to protect her. Ha! You rushed needlessly to your grave, boy. Lynx glared coldly at me with his remaining eye. Alas, your time has come. He raised his saber high, preparing to strike. Enough. Stunned, we looked toward the intruder. You! There stood an old crone, her wizened features obscured by a heavy hood. How had she made it all the way down here? Lady Vera? And what have we done to bring poor Magister General running, I wonder? He growled. It's been far too long, Lord Lynx. A pity that I seem not to have caught you at your best. The crone met Lynx's mad stare head on. I will take the frozen flame. After all, it seems you to have been quite unable to decide what to do with it yourselves. She raised a hand, and armed soldiers poured into the room. Magia lifted Kid to her feet. This seems like a good time to leave. Lynx snarled. You'll regret this, witch. He kicked off from the floor, and his body rose into the air. He then turned his venomous glare on us. And you, Kid, you will pay for this with your life soon enough. You will never be safe from me. With that, he disappeared like a puff of smoke. The crone lingered for a moment, her eyes resting on us. Kid, if you wish to try and steal the frozen flame again, you are welcome to try anytime you please. We'll be waiting. But you'll have to get out of here alive first. The soldiers drew their weapons and fell upon us. Sorry, I'm giving some word because this is going longer than I thought. Darkness, heed my call! With Kid slumped up against him, Majil spread his arms and drew a sigil in the air. Hurry, Surge, this way! I grabbed onto him and we plunged into darkness. Thanks to Majil's magic, we managed to escape the manor alive. But the lights of torches dotted the forest, and we could hear soldiers calling out to one another. We stopped briefly in the darkness of the wood, and Kid leaned heavily on a tree, desperately trying to quiet her ragged breathing. It was a terrible wound she'd suffered, and it seemed to be taking its toll. Are you okay, Kid? Yeah, don't worry about me, mate. We're surrounded. It won't be long before they find us, said Majil, his eyes cautiously scanning the area. Kid raised her eyes to look at me. It's me and Majil they want. Get out of here, Serge. It's us they want, not you. What are you saying? I'm not leaving you here. Look at you, you can barely stand. It's nothing I can't handle. Besides, I've got Majil with me. If they catch you with us, they won't go easy on you. But I remembered everything. I remembered another me. A me from a long time ago. Slowly, Kid averted her gaze, looking up into the night sky. I have to go. Stars reflected in her eyes, and suddenly she looked like nothing more than an ordinary young girl with a sad, distant expression on her face. Kid. Don't worry, Serge. I'm okay. We'll meet again. Kid smiled. We'll meet again somewhere, someday. Some time. Promise. Her eyes closed gently. I didn't manage to nick the frozen flame in the end. And I lost the time egg, too. The only thing I had left of Lucas. But it's okay. Everything's gonna be okay. There's something inside me that shines brighter than any stupid jewel. The most important thing in the world. She opened her eyes again and fixed them on me. I could have lost myself in their depths forever. No one can take that from me. Not for as long as I live. There was nothing else in the world I wanted but this. I doubted I'd ever want anything again. I only wanted this moment. All the clocks in the world could have stopped right then and there for all I cared. And that was exactly what I wished for as I gazed at her. Goodbye, Serge. And thanks. She looked down, then turned away and disappeared into the darkness of the night. Would I ever see her again? Kid! Don't follow me, Serge. Please. Just don't. I strained to try and catch a glimpse of her as the last traces of her shadow vanished. Vanished toward a place I might never reach again. No, Kid! I leapt to my feet, meaning to chase after her, but a shadow soon blocked my path. Machiel? Without saying a word, he slowly shook his head. Behind the mask, I saw a sadness in his eyes. Then the shadow withdrew and melted into the darkness. Machiel! Kid! Wait! Don't leave me! I screamed into the night, but there was no reply. The black silence swallowed my cries. Kid. Kid. And so ends another tale. Perhaps one day I'll see Kid, Machiel, and Riddell again. One day. Somewhere. At another time. In another world. Perhaps none of us will even realize it. But that's a story for another day. For now I must put down my pen. Closed my grandfather's diary. And then, from downstairs, I heard my mother calling. Did you hear me? Your friend's here. Nimble footsteps charged up the stairs. The door flew open. In tumbled a young girl. A girl who seemed somehow familiar. Hey, Serge. It's a beautiful day for adventuring. I found a rundown old manor in the woods to the north. You want to go exploring? Come on, put the book down and let's get out of here. Credits not translated. Okay. The end? Sunday in the Park with George and Radical Dreamers both have the being in love with the same woman your grandfather was in love with trope. Though it's somewhat different here. In the Sunday in the Park with George case, probably grandmother. In this case, I assume the assumption is that Serge never saw that kid again, but I don't know. There are a lot of unanswered questions. At least for the moment. From my vantage point. Parallax. A fin. That's what a fish has. And also other animals. One of 7 completed. What happens if I hit... I'm just going to see what happens if I hit continue. Alright. Okay. I'm going to do that. That's an interesting icon. I'm going to hit end game because I got to go what they sometimes call eating food. I do want to check something that I read in the Chrono Cross menu that may or may not appear, and I'm just going to pop in here real quick. Nope, not what I was told was gonna be here, so I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm just gonna say thanks for watching. This has been a 4-hour stream, which is about an hour and a half more than I expected. So I'm going to make a hasty exit and say thanks for watching. Bye!